Richardson going to take off and run. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. The first career touchdown.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome in on a busy Thursday. Back 9 with Michelob Ultra, another NBA Jam location where you can play the game. High score will win the shoes. I will if you're watching via the AAA Membership Lounge, YouTube Live. I'll show you the shoes that you can win, because the shoes that you can win are exactly like the ones I'm wearing right now. So I will show you the shoes that you can win, courtesy of Michelob Ultra. And an even better part about this is if you do win, this will advance you to the finals coming up here in the not-so-distant future. And then the high score during the finals will win you the arcade game, NBA Jam, which we all love, right? If you're from the 1990s, whether you're like in your 20s like me, or you were just growing up, right, as a child of the 90s, you loved NBA Jam. NBA Jam arcade game in your place, right? If you're the high scorer in the finals, plus thanks to Michelob Ultra and our friends at Zinc, just a ton of great concert tickets up close and personal. I don't have the list of the shows in front of me, but I can promise you this, you will absolutely love it. So we'll do that today. NBA Jam back 9. We can also play back 9 as we normally do here. We are off of Drover. In fact, just the near south side of downtown, on the other side, south side-wise, of I-70, you know, on Morris Street is Morris to Drover, and there you have it with us right here. And this is a busy show for us all because we had a lot going on last night, did we not? A lot going on later on tonight as well. Ian Eagle of CBS and TNT, he is the new voice of the Final Four, and he's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. I don't know if he has seen a great deal out of the new-look Pacers, but we will talk about that. We will talk about that in terms of their matchup with the Knicks coming up later on tonight. Ian Eagle joins me coming up here at about 3:30 today. Also, Matt Painter, head coach of the Boilermakers. Of course, Painter's gang last night, a win in overtime over Northwestern. We will stop down and talk about a lot of that, a lot of things that you want to know. Certainly, the biggest point I think that was made over the course of last night was the consistent discussion about the foul situation, the number of fouls Purdue had whistled, the number of foul shots taken in the game, Purdue compared to Northwestern. We will talk to Matt about that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, and really a variety of things that you will want to hear from the Boilermaker head coach. Matt Painter joins us coming up here at the top of the hour as they wheel in NBA Jam. The arcade game is right here, second floor of back 9, us and NBA Jam. So get here. And you can even play some golf too. Hit some golf balls here at back 9 while you're at it. Ice cold Mick Ultra, plugging that bad boy in and ready to go coming up here in just a couple of minutes. I mentioned Matt Painter's going to join us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59 will be here after 5. And we'll catch the head coach of Indiana State, Josh Schertz. It did not start out well last night in Nashville at Belmont for my Sycamores, down 19 early in that game. And, in fact, Josh had, told me last night that was the worst effort he had seen out of his group. His description was his entitled group last night in Nashville. But they got it right. They got it right in the second half, got some timely shot making. Isaiah Swope hit that banked-in 3 with under 3 to go. Put them up 6, I think, at the time. And then they ultimately got that win over Belmont to set up those stakes coming up on Saturday night when they host Drake at the Holman Center. We'll talk to the head coach of Indiana State, Josh Schertz, about that last night and really what this has done for Terre Haute. I'll get into that in a second because I do have a lot to get into. But what it's done for Indiana State, for the alumni, for the students there right now, and for Terre Haute it's been few and far between, everybody. I mean, it really has. And when you think about it, too, even when Mitch Hannes took them to the regionals and had a great baseball season, it was also mixed in with, the negative of not being able to host and having to defer to TCU for Fort Worth, Texas. You remember that? It was just some also negative. This is something that has just been very embraceable for those in Terre Haute, for those at Indiana State, and for those like me that are alumni of Indiana State University. And Josh joins us coming up at 5:30 today. I'm going to double back to the Boilermakers just for a second, too, about that game before we talk to Matt at 4 o'clock. To me, that was the best game we have seen in the Big Ten this year. And here's why. And we'll get to the difference in foul shots and what you think, whether or not, like Chris Collins obviously felt he got hosed last night, was one of the great dismissals and then one of the great walk-offs. I go back to, somebody can help me out, either 97 or 98. You remember at Assembly Hall against Illinois, and Bob Knight got run by Ted Valentine. And he basically, for lack of a better description, he buzzed the tower upon his exit, and the tower was Ted Valentine here a couple of different times. He just kept walking right by him. I mean, right by him. It really was. It was one of the great getting tossed moments in history. Now, the thing of it is, when he got tossed, people, I remember that night in Assembly Hall, people thought, well, now everything's really going to take off, and, the team's going to be inspired. And in like true IU fashion with that particular team, and then a lot of teams since, to be quite honest with you. I mean, immediately after that, there was a lob throw, and I think it was his name Jerry? Not Jerry Hester. Maybe it was Jerry Hester. Kind of a swing guy, 6'6", athletic dude, goes right up and dunks, and I believe it was Andre Patterson under the goal, and the ball bounces off his head. And it was really, for that particular season, it was incredibly appropriate. But that was one of the better dismissals that I could ever remember. And that's until last night. Because you got to think about the circumstances last night. It was just such a great game. If you like offense and you like offensive punching and counter-punching, that's exactly what you got. It was shot-making ability, and Northwestern had that from the gate. Think about this. Both teams, field goal percentage-wise, shot like 58%. I mean, it was incredible, the shot-making ability. Whether you're talking about Boo Buie or Ty Berry, especially Ty Berry at the beginning of that game, it was amazing to watch Boo Buie kind of settle into his role as the go-to guy on that team. But both sides, just the shot-making ability was incredible. Now, obviously, Northwestern fans, anybody that doesn't like Purdue, and that's a lot of people now because they've got a huge target. Everybody out there is sick and tired of Zach Edey. You get the discussion again, Zach Edey's not any good, or is he good because he's, 7'4" or whatever. You can save that for another day. But that discussion started last night because the Boilermakers shot 46 free throws. And when you look at Northwestern and what they did at the free throw line, and again, if you're Chris Collins, if you're any coach, if there is a disparity in free throw shooting like that, you're going to get hot, right? They shot 8. They were 6 of 8. 6 of 8. And you're whoever you are, and that is always going to be one of the go-tos is free throw shooting in descriptions when one team or its fan base believes that it got hosed. But you're going to get hot. And Chris Collins got hot. Chris Collins, basically when the game was over, what was there, 2 seconds remaining? I mean, hell, I think Purdue ended up shooting. I think Mason Gillis had 4 free throws made at the tail end of that thing. So ultimately, the final score of 105-96 was much more of a separation than the game actually was. And I don't know about anybody else. When it was tied and Northwestern had that last look, there is no way that any of you out there did not think that floater put up by Boo Buie was down. I thought it was clean. I thought they just got the shot. And that's after Purdue actually, and Lance Jones, took a foul because they had a foul to give. But he took that foul, and it seemed that Northwestern still got offensively exactly what they would want in that situation. And I mean, again, Boo Buie was making shots. The 3 over Edey was incredible. And what made it most incredible was it didn't look like a force. I mean, it was just in rhythm, a fluid release and rhythm that was drained over Edey, right in front of the Northwestern bench. But I thought that floater was going to be clean, and I thought Northwestern would sweep Purdue. And then you kind of knew that if that thing went into overtime, that it was going to be certainly difficult. But it was just punch and then counter punch offensively all night. But what you gather, and I don't care who it is, listen, I don't care if it's Chris Collins, I don't care if it's Matt Painter, if there's going to be that particular level of disparity, then the other coach is always going to be complaining, or in that moment complaining. Chris Collins didn't really complain afterwards, but again, his case, by the way that he had that exit, was already made. There are always going to be complaints there. And then you're going to get those involved in the game are going to explain to you exactly what happened. I'll ask that of Matt Painter coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, exactly what he thought and if he'd ever been a part of a game where the free throws were that lopsided. And I'm assuming probably not. But we'll get the answer from Matt coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. It's an amazing game. Northwestern is legit. We talked to Brooks Barnheiser on Tuesday. I mean, beyond legit they are. When you have a scorer, when you have a go-to guy, and they had a couple of dudes that were hot along with Ty Berry, but when you have a go-to guy like Boo Buie, you've got something. And we saw that with Northwestern last night. Northwestern hung around. Boilermakers ultimately getting that 105-96 win. That's in overtime. They get number 6 Wisconsin in Madison coming up on Saturday. Does this make anybody else wonder? And this was for the Boilermaker fans, right? So Boilermaker fans that felt justified in the foul shooting and will defend that. You know that is coming, right? You know that there's going to be a game where you guys are going to be unhappy. I'll predict it right now. I don't know if this is going to happen in Madison, but it wouldn't surprise me. You know that there's a game coming to where Purdue fans are going to be unhappy about the fouls whistled on Edey. It is just the vicious cycle of it. And last night at Mackey Arena, a lot of fouls called. You knew going in Chris Collins was going to utilize his 3 bigs, talking about how he had 15 fouls and he was going to use them. He exhausted a lot of them last night. There's no question. But you know that at some point, just the officiating in general, right? And the whole get back of it, the turning of the tide, the karma, however you want to describe it, it's going to be one that's going to go against Purdue. It just will. The other thing I want to ask Matt is, compared to the past, we've talked about, the whistle for Edey, and he obviously, as his coach, have been pro wanting to get that whistle for Zach Edey, where he thinks that is right now and where he thought last night. And they know what he's going to say, right? But I want to go more in depth on that with him, and we'll do that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. It was amazing. I just kind of look at it like this. You're going to have nights. And that was a night that, honestly, without it, and even shooting as crappily as they did, if you look back at Purdue and what they did with the work, 29 of 46 in the free throw line. Zach Edey, who normally is really good, was 8 of 17. He missed 9 free throws last night. And that's the other thing that really stuck out to me. Like Trey Kaufman-Renn, I'm guessing that Trey Kaufman-Renn didn't get much clock in the second half because he struggled at the free throw line too. We saw moments where you saw Braden Smith struggling a little bit, 5 of 8. But kind of makes you wonder, had it not been that way, what may have transpired otherwise. But it was as good of an offensive game And I love the punch and counterpunch mentality of it. That's what you got last night. And it gives, I think, everybody, it's funny, like I'm not college basketball or high school basketball scream at the officials person. I will say this. I mean, I did used to get off on Ted Valentine a little bit, right? I think everybody used to get off on Ted Valentine. There's always an official collegiately, like the Kentucky group. Who's the dude? The Kentucky, they got after his roofing company. John, what's his name? I can't remember now. There's always been somebody that's been in the crosshairs, right? But Courtney Green and that group last night was in the crosshairs of basically everybody but Boilermaker fans. The shot-making ability is what made that game, though. It did. And I got to give credit where credit is due. Northwestern hanging in, having that opportunity to win. I mean, really, that's all you can ask for at the end, even if you are upset with the foul shots divvied out and the lack thereof for you. Northwestern hanging in with that shot-making ability and having a chance to win it in that final possession of regulation. And having a guy in Boo Booey. Incredible game last night. Matt Painter joins us top of the hour. We shall discuss in full with him. I'm telling you, that's not going to be a conversation you will want to miss. Now, honestly, if you're an IU fan or you hate Purdue or whatever, you may not like the answers, but you will enjoy the conversation. I guarantee you that. Matt joins us coming up here in the 4 o'clock hour. All right, Pacers back in action coming up later on tonight against the Knicks. It was kind of weird. If you looked in Boston, that's the Lakers and the Celtics tonight. So this is a TNT game, I believe, for the Lakers and the Celtics. And LeBron James, Anthony Davis will not play for the Lakers. So that may end up being one of the most boring games in the history of TNT. And, I mean, hell, I think they had one last week. Didn't they have one with Toronto and somebody on a Thursday night last week too? So it may be a struggle tonight. I'm wondering what things will look like for the Pacers with the Knicks. And I mentioned this yesterday. They go to Boston. They obviously, get a shot at the Celtics. Celtics full strength. Get down early. Celtics missed 2 shots in the second quarter the other night in Boston. Pacers hung in. Pacers took a lead late. Pacers ended up losing but made a game of it. And I don't hand this out. Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that. Lightly. I was impressed, even though I don't look at, as I mentioned before, entertaining wins or moral victories or anything like that. I was impressed with the way that they did hang in and the way that they gave themselves an opportunity. It's kind of like this. It's kind of how I felt about Northwestern last night. I mean, you're taking, I talk about punch and counterpunch, but if you're Northwestern, you were taking the absolute best shot offensively in a lot of ways from Purdue, and you were hanging in at Mackey Arena in West Lafayette, which was incredibly loud last night. Just a great environment. But getting back to the Pacers and the Celtics the other night, the Pacers hanging in there and I look at it like this, that it was impressive that they were able to give themselves the opportunity, especially considering the minutes limitations that were placed on Tyrese Halliburton. And you can honestly have the opinion of if he would have had time still to play and would have been participating late, that was an even more winnable game. But you're impressed they hung around. This game tonight's different. There's no Julius Randle for the Knicks. We'll see about OG Anunoby for the game later on this evening. But this is a game where you slide all that aside. You slide. Tonight is a game that you need to get. 10-7 in the month of January. And the month of January, in large part, played without Tyrese Halliburton. That was an absolute schedule gauntlet. It was either the second or rated number 1, at least close to it as far as schedules, strength of schedule that they were playing in the month of January in the NBA. They go 10-7. All right, so 3 games over 500. But to be able to navigate that, for the most part, without Tyrese Halliburton, with other injury situations as well, that schedule impressive. But we also have to start to see the proof. And the proof comes later on tonight in a matchup like this. The Knicks, since the Anunoby trade, they have been as good as anybody. Much better defensively. a team obviously you expect to be reckoned with, but with no Randall and the opportunity at Madison Square Garden tonight, it has to be one that is taken advantage of. So this is not one of the, hey, look, they hung in, but that's great. We left that in Boston. With the Knicks tonight, it is one that you need to get. It's the one where we're going to gauge. All right. Very few opportunities to do that so far. Considering Tyrese Halliburton's injury, considering Pascal Siakam's trade here, you want to get everybody together and then start to slowly see what evolves from it. And tonight is one of those games. In fact, to me, it's not even so much wanting to stir the echoes of what was an incredible rivalry back in the 1990s. Let's face it, there's no Reggie Miller involved here. And that also, you had his personality, his villain, his heel to New York, to the Knicks, to that fan base. I mean, there's no way you're ever going to be able to recapture that. So I'm not so much looking for it in terms of a rivalry, but this is one of those gauges to where you start to see how legitimized this group is going to be. What you really have. And especially if Halliburton is deemed able, more minute availability. We'll see. All that still is within decision-making play. But whether or not you're going to see him, and especially able to see him close, which is the biggest of deals. But that's how I look at this game tonight, with the perspective of, all right, this is one of these gauges against a good team, and especially a team that has been really good, very hot here recently, what this Pacer team does on the road. And it's the first of a back-to-back. They get Sacramento at Gainbridge Fieldhouse coming up tomorrow night. So that's where I start with that. We shall talk about that again. Ian Eagle is going to join us coming up at the bottom of the hour. The new voice of the Final Four for CBS and the TNT play-by-play man. We'll talk some NBA with Ian Eagle coming up here at 3:30. Matt Painter, head coach of the Boilers, in a must-listen 4 o'clock window for us today. Josh Schertz, the head coach of Indiana State, big win. I'm telling you, that could have been an absolute disaster last night. Disaster it could have been. And they come from behind in the second half and get that win. Sold out Drake game, I believe, coming up on Saturday in what should be a great environment at the Holman Center. We shall talk about that. Butler back in action, I believe, coming up tomorrow night. Butler has Creighton tomorrow night, I think, on the road at Creighton. And they got two coming up here, Creighton and UConn on the road. That is incredibly difficult. But, man, would it be nice to add that to the resume. A little bit more on college basketball with that coming up as well. Dan Quinn's got a coaching destination, a head coaching destination. Bring that up. I don't know. People have asked whether or not the dynamic may be in play here to where Gus Bradley, a lot of you want Gus Bradley gone. A lot of fans, some media want to see Gus Bradley gone. With that relationship of the past, might there be an opportunity there for Gus Bradley going with Dan Quinn to Washington? That's something we'll talk about a little bit later on as well. I'm not quite sure. I know that people are mentioning that. We shall see. The name of the official that I was trying to think about, Andy Sweeney, that's Swebo in the morning, says had a roofing company called, is it called Roofies? It's not called Roofies, right? No, Rooferees. Yeah, that'd be bad if you called it Roofies. Hey, I got a new roofing company. It's called Roofies. John Higgins is the guy's name. Thank you very much, Swebo, right there. I knew if it had anything to do with Kentucky, Swebo, the pride of Northern Kentucky, would be right on top of it right there. What do you think, Cam? Roofies, would that be a bad roofing company name right there?
Yeah, I don't think that would go over well.
Yeah, Roofies. Rooferees is what it was called with John Higgins. And remember, Kentucky fans went crazy with that company because that was his. Hey, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. And again, a loaded guest list for you. I'd love to see you out here. NBA Jam is already underway right over there. High score gets an opportunity to play in the finals in the next couple of weeks at Brothers Downtown to win the actual arcade game. What you win right now, I'm going to show you. Guys ready? Really quick here. These are the custom-made shoes, or custom-made shoes just like these. Let me see here. Trying not to get a little bit of a glare here. Let's see, is it better when I move it back? These are custom-made courtside shoes, courtesy of Michelob Ultra and Nike right here. Nike Air. These are old school. If you can't tell right there, it is blue and gold, Pacers cover. This is awesome. These look great. I mean, original, custom-made. You can win a pair with the high score here today at the back nine. Michelob Ultra brings us to you. Thank you to our friends from Zinc with NBA Jam. Second floor of the back nine. Again, south side of Indy. On the other side, the south side, in fact, of I-70. Morris to Drover, and you are right here. Just look for the huge nets. Second floor, ice cold Michelob Ultra, great food, NBA Jam. We may even hit some golf balls as well. Matt Painter, Josh Schertz, Mike Chappell still to come. We'll talk to Mike about the Pro Bowl, talk to Mike about the Senior Bowl, talk to Mike about a variety of things in the 5 o'clock hour. And Matt Painter joins us coming up today at 4. 239-1070. Email address, jmv at 1075thefan.com. Hello, Nicole, you want to see the shoes? All right, here you go. There you go. Check them out. Take them. To stream the app, HD Radio, Ian Eagle of CBS and TNT on the other side. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Watch parties aren't what they used to be.
Welcome. Bowling, there are rules.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
NBA Jam is what we're playing. Michelob Ultra brings us to you. The high score wins this or these, if you will. Original Nike Air courtside Michelob Ultra shoes. NBA Jam is here. Back 9 off of Drover, south side of downtown. Love to see you here. Second floor is where we're located. Maybe even hit some golf balls, too. Matt Painter, head coach of the Boilermakers, coming up at 4 o'clock. Don't miss that. Mike Chappell, CBS 4, Fox 59. And we'll talk to Josh Schertz, head coach of Indiana State. My Sycamores, another win last night. Get Drake coming up on Saturday. But on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he is a friend of the show. You can catch him as the new Final Four voice, of course, on CBS. You can catch him on TNT. Ian Eagle is with us today. Hello, Ian. How are you?
Hey, what's up, JMV? How you been, buddy?
We are getting you set. A lot of hoops conversation. I'm just kind of set the table for you right here so we can just get off and running with it.
Let's do it.
I'm curious, how much have you seen, if at all, I guess? I know not live, I don't think. But how much have you seen of the new look Pacers that will invade Madison Square Garden later on tonight?
Yeah, have not had them yet this season. It's always interesting how it works. Teams that get earmarked for national TV games are based solely on off-season perception and speculation on where a team might fit in. Indiana wasn't getting a whole lot of buzz. And now all of a sudden they're a team that has certainly brought curiosity because of their style of play, their offensive explosiveness. Rick Carlisle, proven winner, the change they made in acquiring Siakam. And now you look at them as one of those teams that could be an absolute wild card in the Eastern Conference. There's always that classification, JMV. Oh, that's a team I wouldn't want to see in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to start popping up in those conversations like, I'd rather not play them. We might win the series, but it's going to take a lot out of us to win the thing in 6 or 7 games. So I'm definitely taking notice. I do have them up on my schedule somewhere over the next few weeks before the NCAA tournament gets underway. And looking forward to it. I always know that a Rick Carlisle coach team is going to be well-schooled, well-prepared.
Well, and we haven't really seen too much of everybody together, all hands on deck, if you will. I mean, a very short sample size with Halliburton coming back. And, we'll see how much of it we get in Madison Square Garden later on tonight. But you can just look since that Anunoby trade, man, the Knicks have really taken off, have they not?
They have. I had them not this past Tuesday, the Tuesday before, a Net game on TNT. They've just brought a different vibe, a different energy, even with an injury to Randall, even with an injury to OG Anunoby. They keep winning. Jalen Brunson has emerged as legitimate number one guy, someone that may start picking up steam in MVP conversation if the Knicks can truly bust through and be a top 2 team in the Eastern Conference, which is now not out of the realm of possibility considering what was simmering under the surface with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Knicks are surging. They're buying into what Tom Thibodeau is selling, and I like their energy. They're just a team now that believes in who they are, their identity. What does it translate into postseason? I don't know yet, but I could tell you this: they're a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, Tom Thibodeau has seemingly had, and there are coaches like this, probably more of them, and they're wildly successful, but they have a shelf life. Does Thibodeau have a shelf life there? Has he presented what looks to be a shelf life in New York yet, or does it still remain to be seen because they're winning games and it seems like everybody's on the same page?
Yeah, fans were chanting his name the other day in a positive way at MSG, not in a negative way. That's not normally how it works for coaches. So I think it's been very interesting to watch the evolution of how he's viewed. When he came in as a head coach, his hard-driving ways, his demanding style was actually celebrated. That, we got to get back to that. We got to get back to the mentality of getting the most out of your guys and challenging them and providing a standard. So that happened in Chicago. And then things went a little south. He goes to Minnesota. You think, okay, he's going to turn this thing around. And then that goes sideways. He eventually gets the job with the Knicks. And I'm not sure the talent matched the style that he wanted to coach, but slowly they have now built this team very much in his image, and it's working. And he's getting more kudos than ever before in the New York area, which shows you that he didn't change who he is. He didn't change how he approaches it. I think Knicks fans have changed the way they view him based on the results and also based on the likability of this team, how hard they play, how determined they are, and they win clutch games. They're winning close games. The big knock on them, JMV, had been they hadn't beaten anybody above 500 consistently. All their wins seem to be against sub-500 competition. Well, over the last 2 weeks, they've played heavyweights, and they haven't lost. So pretty good sign that they're ready to compete with anybody.
He is Ian Eagle of CBS and TNT, kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Sticking with them for a moment again, get Pacers Knicks right here coming up later on tonight. So Julius Randle, his nearly 25 a game, his nearly 10 rebounds a game, going to be lost for, I would suggest, a significant period of time right here. Still got Brunson, you got Anunoby, as we talked about, but what is the impact or the effect with Randle not being a part of this, at least for the short-term future?
Yeah, he's someone that has bailed them out at times offensively where you can run the offense through him. He is a dogged competitor. He had been healthy, which has been the biggest question mark with him. Playoffs last year, I don't know if you remember the series against Miami in the conference semifinals. It turned out to be a really fun series. Randle was not himself. You could just tell. I ended up doing that series on TNT, and it wasn't him. He wasn't doing a good job helping defensively. He was giving up on some plays, which was not something characteristic of him. He just didn't look like the Julius Randle who had made himself into an all-star with the New York Knicks. This year he has, and even that game that I worked a week and a half ago, that was vintage Randle. Fiery, taking over when necessary, made a couple of big plays. He made one really risky pass that worked out for him out to the corner where you see coaches often go, no. Oh, yes, we're good. And that's what happened. He's that type of guy. And they miss his fire. Brunson makes up for a lot of it because of his way and his temperament. Randle emotes a bit more. Brunson will show you at different times what he's feeling. Randle cannot just hide whatever it is that he's experiencing. He shows it to you. And I think that's actually a good thing for the Knicks team in this market with this rabid fan base. He's gone hot and cold with the fans by his own admission. I think he's felt some of the pressure of New York and the fact that they can turn on you in a hurry if it's not going well. This has been a positive wave, and it's been mutually beneficial here this season.
He is Ian Eagle, TNT, of course, NBA, CBS, the voice of the Final Four. I'm talking to Matt Painter coming up here at the top of the hour, 4 o'clock. Just an overtime win over Northwestern. They get Wisconsin coming up on the road on Sunday. Are you doing that game, by the way?
I am doing that game. Yes. We'll be in Madison, 100%.
I'm glad I did some half-ass prep right here on that. Well done by me.
I could have pulled I'm not even going to tell you, and then I would have popped up Sunday afternoon. He was a son of a bitch. Right.
Well, thank you. You know what? That's why we love you, because you just kind of ease me in to situations that otherwise would be very uncomfortable. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's awesome. Now, I'm curious, did you have a chance to see any of Purdue and Northwestern Big Ten Network last night, that game? And what do you make of the Boilermakers, where they are in the season, especially compared to what we have seen led by Zach Edey in the past?
Yeah, I had Nets Suns last night, so just to give you a little insight into my schedule ahead, The Warriors on Tuesday night with Philadelphia in San Francisco took the red eye. Tried to grab a little bit of sleep on that, turn around, do the Nets and Suns last night. And today, tomorrow is dedicated to the preparation of Purdue and Wisconsin after getting some notes done late last week, now adding to it. Have the first half of that Northwestern game on my laptop. I'll start checking that out tomorrow, spill over into Saturday when I fly to Madison. My prep, though, on Purdue from a board standpoint, individual standpoint, is pretty extensive. And look, you're 20-2. You're a marked team. I think Northwestern just plays them very well. I think sometimes in matchups you do have to respect that a coach finds something. Chris Collins is really smart, found something there that's been effective. They missed a bunch of free throws. I don't know if I want to throw that into the anomaly category. As a team, they're shooting it at 72% this season. That number should probably be higher. Zach Edey missed 9, which, again, you hope in a big moment come March that's not going to be the case. But, look, we've seen it. It's a reality on how Purdue is perceived. Until they show it in tournament settings, they're going to be the same question marks. They're really good. They're talented. I love how they play. I like the mixture on this team. Braden Smith is so much fun to watch. Lance Jones has been a perfect fit. I do think Fletcher Lawyer is maturing and getting better. Look at the numbers first half of last season compared to second half of last season. And there was a drop-off. This year there's been more stability, and although the numbers are more or less the same from a year ago, I just think he's in a better position to take on a little more responsibility and made big plays last night when need be. Good role players. This is a team that is going to be one of the favorites going to the NCAA tournament, and rightfully so. They've got everything that you would look for. They check every box. But until you do it, the same things are going to pop up.
Yeah, and Iron Eagles on the call. Who's with you in Madison on Sunday?
It'll be one William J. Raftery.
Well, that's awesome right there. Now, you guys get to hang out because there's nobody in the world that I would rather hang out with, I would think, in a setting like that. I'm sure you're the same, than with Bill Raftery, right?
Yeah, JMV. I think you guys would enjoy each other's company. I've known Bill now for literally 30 years. I've been doing games with him for 29 years. I did Nets radio for 1 year before I moved on to the TV side, so I got to know him that 1 year that I did radio. He was doing TV. The next year, placed next to him in 1995 doing Nets television. I was 25, 26 years old, and I got an education in more ways than one. Basketball education, TV education, what happens after midnight education, all of it.
Yes.
All rolled into one.
He's something. So after Chris Jenkins hit that game winner for Villanova in Houston, my producer, my ex-producer, who's still my friend, he's actually here right now with us at Back Nine, went up to him courtside after that shot was made and started asking him questions. He got 2 questions deep, and Bill said, "Hey, I tell you what, we can talk about this some other time because I need to go grab a cocktail."
Yeah, yeah. Sheer honesty. Sometimes we underrate what it requires just to be direct, and that's Bill telling it like it is. Now he's the best, and we're gonna have a ball. We had Iowa State, Kansas last week in Ames, Iowa, and we had Michigan State, Maryland the week before. We've got Houston, Texas coming up. So we're bouncing around a little bit, and the goal is to see as many teams as possible, obviously, before you get to the actual road to the Final Four. But all of these games are important in getting a sense of what the college basketball landscape looks like. And for me, imperative to see Purdue in person and get a feel from Matt Painter what this team is all about.
Man, that's so awesome. Voice of the Final Four. I'm happy for you. I really am. You're awesome to us here on the show and awesome to the folks here in Indy. They love hearing you on here. Thanks, as always, for coming on with us. And we'll be watching coming up on Sunday where You and Bill Raftery up there, and I'm glad. It was almost prep that I did. My voice? I went. Yeah, are you going to be there? You know, I kind of spread that out. Are you going to be there?
Yeah, no, that was very sly. And if you tune in, I'd say there's a pretty good chance on Sunday you get one dose of onions.
Yes, Miniman. That's at the beginning too.
Yeah. Hey. Wisconsin comes out.
No, that's I thought last night was the best game of the Big Ten so far this year with Purdue and Northwestern, and there's an opportunity with these two highly ranked teams, 2 and 6, going at it. For a chance there at the top spot to lay a little bit of a claim there. This should be certainly worthy of that coming up on Sunday. Ian Eagle of CBS, he's going to be on the call. It is always a pleasure. We'll check back up with you as we get closer and closer to the month of March, too.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. JMV, all the best.
Thank you, Ian.
See you, man.
It's Ian Eagle of CBS and TNT. Man, there is not many better than that. What a great guy. Voice of the Final Four coming up this year. Ian Eagle of CBS and TNT. Back 9 NBA Jam. Michelob Ultra high score on NBA Jam wins this pair of shoes right here. You can see inside the AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live and advances to the finals. More on that coming up. Matt Painter is going to join us coming up at the top of the hour. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Imagine a world where your child not only learns but truly thrives. Global Preparatory Academy, where excellence meets diversity.
Diablo sandwich, a Dr. Pepper, make it fast. I'm in a damn hurry.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. Back 9, our location off of Drover, the south side of downtown. Actually, the other side, if you will, from downtown of I-70. Holy crap, where you guys all coming up, Landon, with these shirts? They got shirts like that over there? Those are badass. That's me and B Swift. I just actually tweeted it out. You can show, you may have to get a little bit closer right there. This is from Promotions Landon. And are we giving these away today? The JMV Jam, if you guys know NBA Jam, so this is how you got a 2-player team, right, of all the NBA teams from the 90s. And this is JMV Jam, and on one side it's got my face, and the other side it's B Swift. B Swift is upstairs on 5 from where we are, normally downtown, not today, but normally downtown on 100, Hot 100.9, right? Hot 100.9. And you can see also B Swift at the Pacer games. He does a lot of the in-house, in-arena announcing at the Pacer games. I don't know how many of these shirts. I just sent out an X or a tweet, if you will, of it. Check it out, and, man, get here because these shirts are badass, and I'm taking one of them. I'm definitely taking one of those. Thank you, Zinc and Michelob Ultra, for that. That's awesome. It is JMV Jam. Me and B Swift right there. That is outstanding. How many of those you got over there, Landon? Do we know? Okay. Well, I got to get the shirt, too. I got to get the shirt. That's awesome. Well done right there. So, hey, join, play NBA Jam, and maybe you can win that shirt. And maybe you can win these if you're watching in the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live right now. The Nike Air Courtside Michelob Ultra exclusive shoes. Gold and blue was the color. Actually, blue and gold in terms of the Pacers right there. But that is the color. Those are originals, and you can win those. Get the high score here. Advance to the finals as well. Maybe to win NBA Jam, the arcade game, outright. I would love to see you, so get here. Back 9. Morris to Drover, and here you are, really right next to the White River, near south side of downtown. Would love to see you here. All right, Josh Schertz, Indiana State, their head coach, still to come. Mike Chappell, we'll go over Pro Bowl. We'll go over probably a little bit of free agency and some Senior Bowl stuff with Mike in the 5 o'clock hour. But on the other side, this is absolute can't miss. Head coach of the Boilermakers, Matt Painter. He joins us coming up next. The stream, the app, HD Radio, inside the AAA Membership Lounge, YouTube Live, wherever you can listen, make sure you are next. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
If you're talking about it,
Here on the Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
And the beat goes on, yeah. And the beat goes on.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Thank you to Ian Eagle of CBS. Ian Eagle's got to call the Boilermakers, Wisconsin, along with Bill Raftery on Sunday. Ian Eagle, of course, of TNT. Talk Pacers, Knicks later on tonight right here on The Fan. We'll get back into that conversation a little bit later on. We've got Josh Schertz, Indiana State, a winner in Belmont last night. Drake coming up on Saturday evening at the Holman Center in Terre Haute. And Mike Chappell with the latest in Colts information for you. And whether or not there might be interest with Dan Quinn with Gus Bradley. I'm not thinking there will be, but do you think there will be? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Cam was giving me a thumbs up, but not for that. Talk to Mike about that and more coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Back 9 we are off of Drover. NBA jams being played. High score wins these Nike Air original courtside shoes, courtesy of Michelob Ultra, and advances to the finals coming up in a couple of weeks. Again, off of Drover, back 9. We would love to see you here with Michelob Ultra. However, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right now, his team went to overtime and beat Northwestern last night at Mackey Arena in West Lafayette. Joining us, the head coach of the Purdue Boilermakers. Of course, I mentioned that big game coming up on Sunday in Madison against Wisconsin. Matt Painter with us now. Hey, Matt, thank you for the time. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
It was fantastic watching that game last night, and here's why. You got to coach it up, and you probably don't view it the same way as fantastically as I do in a lot of these aspects. But I love the punch and counter-punch nature with two teams going to their strengths like that. I really thought that was the Big Ten game of the year so far last night.
Yeah, it was obviously from an offensive standpoint. They're such good shot makers. They have a great playmaker in Boo Buie that really is magical in the way he can make, tough plays, tough shots, step back threes. Ty Berry gets off to such a good start. So those guys scored 71 points. They're 3 guards against us the first time. And so with Langborg getting 20, also with Ty Berry to go along with Boo Buie's 30. So going in, you can't let them get into that rhythm, and that's exactly what they got into. They got into an unbelievable rhythm. Really just a couple guys, right? But that's when you can carry the load. They had 13 threes from 2 players. So, when they get their head up like that and start making tough shots, those threes, that's what you gotta try to stop, because that's what's going to get you at the end of the day. And we're very fortunate. We obviously just outscored them and got a break here and there. We're very fortunate Boo Buie missed that floater in regulation, because I think he makes that 75% of the time.
So Matt Painter, the head coach of the Boilermakers, with us. So I was on my way home listening to Rob and Bobby, and Bobby had mentioned something about a zone that was specifically designed, and he said zone, and my ears kind of perked up a little bit when I was listening at that time, but it was designed regarding the defending in certain situations, Boo Buie. And I wanted you to elaborate a little bit more on what he was talking about last night, and by design defensively, what you guys are trying to do.
Yeah, it was just, when he would get into his ISOs up top, and it wasn't really a true zone. You were going to go from man-to-man into a zone appearance. Then once he gets the ball out of his hands, you're going to match back to a man. A lot of teams in college basketball do something of that nature. So that's all we wanted to do. He's so good in those ISOs up top. And they get almost into a low 1-4. Sometimes they get with a 2 and a 1 side, but for the most part, they're just trying to kind of move people around to give him space so he can navigate and play one-on-one basketball right there, which he's great at. So we just tried to hold a guy in there, and it was, they missed a shot, they made a couple. I don't know how many times it ended up happening. They had to go into it for us to do it. It wasn't like we called a zone no matter what they were doing. They had to go into the ISO basketball to clear out there up top. So that's all we were trying to do. But it's something that, a lot of people in college basketball do.
So what was it would you call it a true zone? Because when he said zone, I went, what? Wait a minute, I got to get home.
It appears as one.
Okay. All right.
So you load up on it. You get 4 people high to where he's got nowhere to go. He gets the ball out of his hands. Then you go and grab a man, and then you don't want him to get it back then, right? Because that's the whole point. You're trying to get the ball out of his hands. We let him get it back once. We were fortunate enough. He missed a tough runner, but you're going from man to zone to man in the same possession. So take it how you want. But that's what we did.
Now, you talk about that final possession and the floater from Bowie in regulation. Is that what you thought? Was that kind of the look you thought you were going to get from Northwestern? You knew he was going to have the ball, but did you think that's what he was looking for?
Yeah, you know he's going to take what you give him. So you got to get into him because he's proven over time that he can dribble into a 25-footer and nail it in crucial times. Like sometimes guys can make that play, they just don't make it when it counts. He makes it when it counts. That's what separates him from those lead guards like that have those type of ball skills and have that type of game. But, like, you're just trying to get into him, trying to get him out of rhythm, trying not to give him an angle. He gets an angle, which good players, when they have speed and quickness, they're going to get, and then he gets to that, that floater. I think he got in between a little bit. And I don't know if he thought he was going to get all the way there, not all the way there. But then he took his shot there, and it was just off. We were, like I said earlier, we were very fortunate because he makes that a lot of times.
So Matt Painter, who joins us up next to Wisconsin, I do want to get that matchup for you coming up on Sunday. Get your thoughts on that. But you mentioned this a little bit earlier. Guys, Barry and then Bowie getting their head up, knocking down threes, and just overflowing with confidence. I mean, you could tell Bowie brings it anyway, but you could just tell these guys when they were shooting early on thought it was going in upon release. Does it work the same way? And I'm going to give you an example. Your guys at the free throw line, did they get into a man a couple of different moments where it kind of looked like that's what they were expecting? Because their head looked down a couple of different times. I know you're missing and you're upset about it, but can that work both ways?
There's no question. Like, it's whether you want to call it the morale of your team or the psychic of individuals, like just like snowballing in the right direction or snowballing the other way. Like, you got to understand when you allow people like Ty Berry and Boo Buie to get into that rhythm that you can actually play good defense after that, and they still might make some because they've gotten into that rhythm and they're a great shooter. So for the free throws on the reverse of it, like, you're doing something positive. Like, you've gotten fouled, you're getting to the free throw line, and now you're missing a front end, you're splitting two, you're missing both, whatever it might be. Now you think you're doing something wrong, and that's what, as a coach, you really got to get with them. And that's all we were trying to do, is be as positive as possible. But they just, we weren't consistently making them. But what we were doing to get there were good things, right? And so you're getting into that double bonus, you're getting fouled, but you're missing them. And so, like, that was, if you're making them, the game's over. Like, we take the game and we push it out. But, it's hard for each individual guy, like Trey Kaufman-Renn. Like, that's why I took him out, simply because, like, he's 1 for 5 from the line. Zach, somebody who's missing his free throws also, he's about 50% in the game. And so, like, now if I got two guys in there and they keep getting fouled, like, now at some point, like, you got to back up off of that and try to lessen one of them. And then hopefully, you start to make more and keep doing good things. But you're doing good things. The moral of the story is you're doing really good things, but you're not rewarding yourself. But don't go away from what you're doing. Keep doing that, because sooner or later you're going to get your dunks, you're going to get your wide open threes, you're going to hopefully make your free throws as you go forward. Yeah, that's what we want. We want those deep post ups. We want the ball at the rim. We want open rhythm threes, and we want to get to the free throw line. That's where analytically you're going to be, putting yourself in an elite position.
Yeah, it's funny too. Maybe just to me, but you guys they were going offensively. I mean, hell, nearly 58%, 59%. For the game, and then to struggle like that from the free throw line, sometimes there seems to be really no rhyme, no reason to it. It's really odd.
Yeah, well, you got to go back as each individual and look from a mechanical standpoint. Like, what am I doing? Am I doing different things? Am I not consistent? Am I off left, right? Am I off short or deep? Or is it a concentration issue? Is it a mechanical issue? And then, you just work on things. It's like any other thing in basketball. Like, you try to fix it. You can't look at the back of it and be result-based and say, like, you're missing free throws again. No, you get to the root of issues. Like, if you turn the ball over too much, like, what kind of turnovers are they? People like, you got to fix your turnovers. Like, well, like, what we got here? We got 3 seconds. We got double dribble. We got light ball turnovers. We got illegal screens. We got 3 seconds. Like, what is it? Like, figure it out. Because now when you just talk in theory and you just, you kind of go on a result-based issue, you're not getting to the core of the problem. Get to the core of the problem, own it, and then you can fix it.
You ever have a team, coach a team that got to the free throw line as much as you guys did last night?
No, but it's the way it is with him. Like, that's just the point of it. We had the number one free throw disparity. So when people make a big deal about it, like, you wave a flag like you don't understand basketball. Like, we had the number one free throw disparity last year in the country, 35 games. So, like, now when you go and look at the free throw disparity that we get, like, in individual games and, like, what we've done this year, I haven't looked this year at where we are nationally, but we got to be one of the top 10 teams, all right? It's him. Like, if you go take a game that is – go grab any game, not last night's, just go grab any game, and you watch it and you look at it, and then you say, okay, here's what he gets away with and here's what they get away with. You'd be surprised of the ledger, like how strong one is versus the other. So they can't call everything, but he gets fouled every play. If you go on the letter of the law, he gets fouled every single play almost. And so, like I don't know what to tell you. And so, like, when you complain that, look at the free throw disparity, even basketball people that say it, it's like a coach. When a coach says, man, look at it, it's 8-2. Like, it's really one of the dumbest comments you can make. Because one team could foul 8 times and the other team could foul 2 times, right? Like, it can't happen. It doesn't have to even up. But it's the old myth in basketball, in competitive basketball. Then all of a sudden you see the refs even it up. Why do they have to even it up if one team fouled 8 times, one team fouled 2? Like, maybe it is 4-4. But, it makes no sense when you say that, because when you go look at a game, you got to go look at each individual play. It's like I watched the North Carolina Georgia Tech game at the end of the night. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a question on whether the guard for North Carolina got fouled at the end, and someone says, "Do you think that's a foul?" And I said, I didn't watch the whole game to understand what was being called and what wasn't. And they go, "Why does it matter?" I said, "Oh, it matters." Like, they got a set, how this game's going to go, but I'm a big believer is you don't mess with the shooter. So, you shoot the basketball, but who initiates contact versus, who doesn't initiate contact is important too. It was the theory 30, 40 years ago was the refs don't decide a game and you don't make that call at the end. That's not the case. If you get fouled on a shot, it's a foul. That should be called. But you got to be able to watch a whole game and watch each individual play to understand, what's being called, what's not being called. It should be the same every game, but it's not the same every game. So that's a big piece of things when things are being called or not being called.
You and I have talked about this before, and I'm curious, are they better at whistling the big man game with Zach down low? Where are they right now, for example, compared to, if we'd had this conversation this time a year ago?
They're better. They're better now than they were like that. There's no question about that. They're not letting those guys chuck him. When he dives to the basket after a free throw, we had games last year where guys would just trying to just to crack him and hit him as hard as he could when he dove, and we'd have officials ignore it. And then you would talk about it with them, and they would kind of look at you like they didn't know what you're talking about. And they saw it. And they just let it go. These guys are getting that egregious call now. When you dive and they crack you and they get there, they still are going to put 2 hands in the back. They're still going to put their knee up their backside right there. Then they try to get him because his jump hook from 4, 5, 6 feet is pretty efficient. When he gets out a little bit too far and he's at 8 to 10 feet, it's not as efficient. That's where you'll see him maybe over dribble a little bit because he's trying to get deeper as he can. But my question to them is always, are the rules the same for him as they are for everybody else? And the answer is always yes, right? They can't say you have separate rules. Then just call it the same way. And then he's so physically dominant that they can't. So they let certain things go, and then they just jump down into a rabbit hole that's really dangerous because now they know, but they got to get the egregious stuff. They can't hit him on the arm. We had a couple plays at Rutgers to where he just gets smashed, and they don't call anything. And it's you just got to get the ones that are really egregious.
So Matt Painter, the head coach of the Boilermakers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We talked about the field goal percentages, and this is something you'd brought up to me before. I think the last time we talked about, sometimes you can shoot well or defend well if the other team is shooting well. What'd you think about your team's defense, even though Northwestern shot at such a high clip last night?
I thought they just, really not in their action as much. I just thought they got away from us to get into rhythm on shots. And, especially Ty Berry. We let Ty Berry get his head up. Now, he made a couple of them were tough shots, but it was after he got in his rhythm, right away. It didn't – think about the atmosphere and the environment. It didn't faze those guys at all. At all. Those guys are that ball wasn't, it was all net.
Yeah.
Those shots they were making. So we just allowed them to get their heads up. Our attention to detail has to be better before our guy catches the basketball. That's where our issue is. We got to do, our guards have to do a better job of just the details of being with people and getting people out of rhythm. Not to get a better contest, to be there so they don't get the shot up. A ball screen defense, we're still not staying into the basketball, and then we're allowing ourselves to get clipped a little bit and get screened. And that's all those guys need, And Zach is in a drop, and so he's not always high up in there, and rightfully so. We were trying to get him up as the game progressed, but we didn't want that dive, and we didn't want. They're so good at their flip ups to their big guy, and so. That was something that I think we have to do a better job of.
What's funny about watching that last night, Matt, was Boo Buie, for example. He stroked that three over Zach. And, a lot of people look at it as, oh, wow. And you saw the paint crew's reaction. It was like that Reggie Miller shot in the Garden against the Knicks in the 90s where, you could see all the hands on the faces because he was the one shooting it. And what occurred to me, and I think you may have alluded to it last night, was that just looked like a normal stroke over a dude that's 7'4" that was putting pressure on. And Boo Buie is so tough as nails at making those shots look easy when that thing is clearly almost impossible. And it really was amazing to see that moment.
Yeah, no question. He's I said in the post-game interviews, I said, he's magical. Yeah. When he gets his head up and he's making his runners, his floaters, getting to his pivot game, he's great in a pivot game. He just shot fakes, just waiting for you to do something foolish, drawing fouls, making hooks. But when he's got it going and he can get that step back going and he just gets that ball in the air. So a 7'4" guy coming at him, he's in that rhythm. And so that is a really, really tough shot for everybody, but it's not tough for him.
Yeah, good decision maker. He just kind of feels you out, it looks like, and then makes that
the game has slowed down for him.
Yeah.
Guys that get it figured out, that the game has really, really slowed down for him.
I'm glad you brought that up. How about your guys? Have you seen here, let's just say, for example, with Fletcher Lawyer, with Braden Smith, how much has the game slowed down for them when they're out there now?
Well, I think it's really slowed down for Braden. Braden's in a different situation, as our main decision maker coming off ball screens. He was great in his progressions and his reads and finding guys and understanding what the defense was doing. Fletch makes, huge shots, made a huge shot last night. But I just thought our team was resilient. They stayed with it. I thought we had reasons to fold, and we didn't. Lance Jones made some, key plays. Obviously, Zach getting 30 and 15. But I just thought it was a total team effort. I thought our bench did some really good things. Mason Gillis really stretches our defense. I felt bad for Trey Kaufman because he did some really good things for us, and but he didn't reward himself. And I know it was frustrating for him and Zach there, but they'll work on it and they'll get it figured out and knock them down next time. So, but I'm probably missing some guys here, but our ability to make shots and then his presence. And then playmaking out of ball screens from Braden. It's a really good balance, but I just thought our guys hung in there. And you can't, when they make shots like that, man, you've got to move to the other end, and you can't hang your head. And we were doing a lot of different things. Obviously we went to, trying to slow Boo Buie down a little bit. We did a lot of offense, defense subs. We were trying to do everything in our power to give us the best chance.
How much responsibility is on the shoulders of Braden Smith game to game, especially in one like that, on the opposite of a guy like Buie, for example, who has been through it so many different times, and obviously the game had slowed down so much for him?
Yeah, I mean, you can call it responsibility, but you're just, you're playing a game. He has a very natural instinct to make the right play. Sometimes he'll get in trouble when he has a predetermined thought. But when he just takes how they handle him and just take what they give him, there's nobody better in the country at that. He's got just a great feel for whether he's going to, last night they hedged, higher. They tried to blitz a couple times, but they really were just coming into a flat, aggressive hedge or even getting out a little bit on it. So, getting outside that guy's shoulder, things will open up a little bit more. But when you get outside that shoulder and Zach's dive into the rim, you got to take him on down there. And so now you don't, there's a reason why heavyweights fight heavyweights in boxing. So now you got a guard holding at the rim, and here comes Zach. What's he going to do? So he's got to get in front of him to take away the direct pass. You saw late in the game, we slipped out of a couple of them, and Braden finds him for dunks. But now you take that away. That's why you see, when he gets outside that shoulder, Braden just skips it to that outside guard on the other side. And now that guy's just sitting there shooting a wide open shot. So they have a decision to make when they defend it that way. But they started the game at their place in a drop. And when you get into a drop, especially a deep drop, and you can screen the on-ball guy and get him off you, that's where Braden's going to get those pull-up threes. That's where you see Braden get more pull-up threes like against Arizona. That's where you see a lot more that he got in the non-conference because a lot of people were playing drop. Well, if you can't make that pull-up, they don't care if you shoot that. Well, Braden just consistently knocked that down, so more people are getting aggressive with him. So now sometimes he's got to be able to play and know that he's going to get that hockey assist, and not try to directly always get assists. So then now if he can't get that and he can't get that skip pass, well, then the guy coming behind, he's the one that's open. So now when you throw it back, now you got Zebo on a high-low, you got that jump. That's why you see Mason Gillis open on top and just getting those wide open ones is because they were switching who they were guarding with. They would take the dive and then Mason would be open. Then they would cover Mason as the guy coming behind, and then they would pull from the opposite corner and hold that guy there, and then Braden would find him. So that's his progression right there in a nutshell. Can I get to my pull-up? Probably not here because they're hedging high. Can I get by his shoulder and get to the rim? They were pretty aggressive. You're not going to get to that too much the way they were defended. But if I can get outside of his shoulder, I got the opposite guy, and I got Zebo diving. And then if I can't, and I know I can't, I got to get the ball out of my hands early because now we got them in a rotation. Now the guy coming behind, which is Mason a lot of times, has got that. You got your high-low, you got your reversal. If you can pay attention to all that stuff, I appreciate it. But if you think basketball and you're a basketball person or a coach, that's easy to see. But if you're just listening, you're probably like, what in the hell is he talking about?
Yeah. Well, I love basketball, but honestly, I probably would need a bit of a helper right there. A little bit. I think you may have lost me after the first or second cut. But no.
There you go.
No, seriously, when you go back to that Northwestern, that first matchup in Evanston, which was the win for Northwestern, how much different or maybe even so much, how much the same did they approach this game last night in West Lafayette?
They started off in a drop against there, and then we had a lot of success with it. We got up into a lead, and then they went away from it. So they had more, even though we scored, I think, close to 90 points. They had more success doing what they did last night. So we felt like that what they were going to do last night, that's what we were prepared for. And so, they go into a lot of offensive floppy action, which is just a double pin, and they get a lot of stuff off their curl action. So we wanted to try to eliminate that curl action, and they didn't get much of that at all in the game. But what they got was just when they just played offensively, they got more. They got probably a handful of things off a wide pin, which we needed to do a better job of defending. Probably needed to get on top. Sometimes it's hard to get on top because it goes pretty quick for them. And we got into a bind there, and they scored off of that a handful of times. The other stuff, we did a pretty good job there, but when they just played and broke us down, whether that was ball screens or just running their motion or whatever, that's where they got away from us. That's the reason I talked earlier about our attention to detail just has to be better before our man catches the ball.
So Matt Painter with us. Before I let you go, I know they have a game at Nebraska tonight, but you get that matchup on the road in Madison against Wisconsin coming up on Sunday. A couple of thoughts regarding that game and the type of Wisconsin team that you guys are going to see on Sunday.
Yeah, they've been great, man. The pieces that they've added, with Storr and Blackwell coming off the bench, and they have a dangerous bench. Connor Essegian can really shoot. The winner kid, the young kid's not getting a lot of time, but he does good things when he's in there in the short amount of time that he's in there. I'm probably missing a guy or two. I think their starting five's fabulous, right? They have experience. Their fives experience, their fours experience, their point guard Chucky Hepburn's experience, Klesmit's their two. Once again, experience. They bring Storr in from St. John's as a sophomore, and he's exactly what they need. They need a guy that can go get him a basket, a guy that's a shot maker, just a good player. But Klesmit's been fabulous in Big Ten play. He does a good job of defending people. Chucky is a tough dude. He's got great hands. He gets steals. Stephen Kral and Wall has been, they've been in the Big Ten longer than Boo Buie, and so like these guys, like they're just experienced. They're like NBA vets. So when you get like a guy like Boo Buie, like I said, the game slows down. Like, yeah, he's got that experience, man. Got that toughness. He understands what's going on. Well, Wisconsin's got those type of guys too, and like that's what you got to be prepared for when you face teams like this. Is like everybody's good. Like, hey, if you stop him, you'll win. Like, if you stop one guy off Wisconsin, it could mean nothing in the game. It could mean nothing because they got four other guys out there on the court that can burn you also. So they got one of those teams where anybody can have that night to beat you. And so, like, that's what it's going to take for us is, like, good team defense, rebounding, taking care of the basketball. Collectively, we have to be better than them. And that's why you need everybody on board. That's why you need everybody defending and, just trying to steal possessions, taking care of that basketball and not letting them have second chance opportunity.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Good win last night, no doubt about that. Best of luck in Wisconsin coming up on Sunday, and we'll do it again very soon, Matt. I appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you.
It's Matt Painter, the head coach of the Boilermakers on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I'll get a little insight, and I'm always honest with you. And I would have said it right there, but oftentimes in this situation, I tape. And so I'm at back nine today, and I actually taped this with Matt a little bit earlier. And full disclosure, as James can attest to, I stopped it right in the middle of it with my elbow. I stopped it. So the outtakes in this are 1,000 times. I shouldn't say 1,000 times better, but the outtakes are pretty good right here because me, the numbnuts, decided to stop the tape with his elbow in the middle of it right there. And I say tape, it's not tape, it's digital. But we got a hell of a laugh out of that too. I go, hey, wait a minute. Hey, I think I just stopped everything here. So that's nice. Really nice there, host of the show, 54 years of age, don't know anything. Hey, back to the back nine coming up in just a minute, too. We got more for you as well. Your chance to win with NBA Jam. High score gets the shoes. We'll talk that up with Michelob Ultra and more. We're live at the back nine today with Michelob Ultra. Thanks to Matt Painter for joining us per usual and sitting through my ridiculousness on this afternoon. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Back with you next.
We expect our information in real time. US Med carries continuous glucose monitors, which provide real-time readings of blood glucose levels. US Med is an approved provider for Medicare and over 500 private insurers.
The Ride with JMV. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. Back Nine's our location today. We're on the second level off of Drover Street. Michelob Ultra brings the NBA Jam arcade game where if you get the high score, you advance to the finals. If you get the high score today, you win these original Nike Air courtside Michelob Ultra shoes. This is for the high score today, while also vaulting to the finals in a couple of weeks, which the winner of that will get an incredible amount of tickets courtesy of Michelob Ultra and Zinc. I mean, up front and personal at your favorite shows and the arcade game NBA Jam too. You win that. Now, I got to give a shout out quickly. Andy Hadley, if you guys are watching inside the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, Andy Hadley came by, and he's from Terre Haute, works here in Indy. Shout out here to, Global Logistics here. Is it RL? Is that RL Cam right there? Global Logistics? You know, it's funny, I've got the goggles on, but it doesn't make my vision any better. Anyway, Andy from Terre Haute, who works here in Indy, brought me the Robbie goggles, Robbie Avila, the goggles, the sophomore from Indiana State, the goggles, and this outstanding Robbie goggles T-shirt right here. So thank you very much, Andy, for that. Andy living in Terre Haute and working here at Indy with the Robbie goggles and T-shirt today, man. That's outstanding. Hey, Josh Schertz, the head coach of Indiana State, by the way, is going to join us coming up here in the 5 o'clock hour, so be ready for that. Mike Chappell, too. Hey, this reminder, I had mentioned this. Hey, Tony, go ahead and check that out, too, Tony. I had mentioned that the conversation I had with Matt was on tape, and I had inadvertently, stopped it with my elbow, inadvertently, unknowingly, whatever. And we restarted it again. And as it kind of always is, we just start kind of talking about stuff. I didn't actually get all of the interview there. The interview went 36 minutes. And I think that one, we kept everything in there that we thought, especially coming after that game, you wanted to hear. But there's even more. When I mentioned during the end of the interview some outtakes, there's some good stuff in there, some extra good stuff. 1075thefan.com and the podcast. I think James put that up there in its entirety with me and Matt Painter. It is pretty good. Even more stuff that we just didn't have time to get to, especially with this road show. That is really good, that if you want to go back, if you're a Boilermaker fan or just a basketball fan in general, 1075thefan.com. And you get about 36 minutes, probably an extra 10 to 12 with me and Matt Painter, the head coach of Purdue, 1075thefan.com. So you can go there if you want to check it out. Actually, James, if you want to, you can send it out in its entirety, and I'll retweet that or re-exit, if you will, coming up a little bit later on. So, no, outstanding conversation with Matt Painter. We appreciate his time. Mike Chappell will join us coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. I don't know if Dan Quinn getting the gig with the Commanders is going to mean that Gus Bradley may end up getting poached and go over there, but it may be worthy of a question I will lob to Mike Chappell coming up here in the 5 o'clock hour as well. Plus, you got the Senior Bowl and so many of these Colts draft selections during the Ballard era. And I know what you're going to say. What has it led to? All right, I understand. But just for the sake of a discussion right now, so many of those have developed as draft selections with a visit to the Senior Bowl. We'll talk to Mike about that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour as well. Free agency, the Pro Bowl, and whether or not there's any means and measures in which Gardner Minshew going to the Pro Bowl would escalate any sort of cost to retain him if the Colts are thinking about doing just that. So Mike Chappell coming up here. That's in the 5 o'clock hour. Josh Schertz, Indiana State's head coach. Indiana State on the road last night. Got down 19 in the first half. Came from behind to beat Belmont down in Nashville. So they're still atop of the Missouri Valley. They get coming up on Saturday evening, 6 o'clock, Drake. And if you remember about a month ago, Tucker DeVries and Drake, it was a good game. And in fact, Indiana State at the beginning of the second half, probably about to the 15-minute mark, had a 7-point lead. That dissolved, and they end up losing to Drake. So a little bit of revenge opportunity, and to stay atop the Missouri Valley for Indiana State against Drake coming up on Saturday at 6 o'clock at what should be, once again, much like last weekend with Bradley and Terre Haute, will be a raucous Holman Center. Josh Schertz about last night and his thoughts on what has been going on, especially in the past month, with his team and Indiana State and Terre Haute in general. Talk to Josh about that coming up at about 5:30 today. Also, got the Pacers and the Knicks coming up from Madison Square Garden later on tonight. How much time does Halliburton get this evening? More than certainly we saw the other night in Boston. But this is one of those games, and again, it was clarified today. There's going to be no Julius Randle. Julius Randle, 24 points a game and over 9 rebounds a game for the Knicks, will be out for an extended period of time with a separated right shoulder. And that is a major blow dealt to this Knicks team that since the Anunoby trade from the Raptors has been outstanding. This Knicks team has been as good as anybody. We talked to Ian Eagle of CBS and TNT a little bit earlier about that. And, specifically he gave us that insight on the Knicks and what they have done with Tom Thibodeau. They have changed the element of their team to be more reflective to what Thibodeau wants. And at least here as of late, when you look at it with Anunoby, they have been much better, one of the better teams in the NBA. Now, the Pacers in the month of January, we talked about that. There are major obstacles. The schedule, the second toughest in the NBA during that span. And without the services, for the most part, of Tyrese Halliburton, when you look at it, in the month of January, they go 10-7. If you were to look at that schedule going into January and knowing what you know about Halliburton missing that much time, does it look good to you that they go 10-7? Now, 10-7 is nothing jumping off the paper, but to me, you'll take that and run with it, considering the circumstances, and now considering that the schedule will start here, not tonight, not tomorrow night, but will start to ease up a little bit. Now, also a part of that equation is when the Pacers have had what we would suggest is an easy schedule, we have seen letdowns. We have seen losses at home to Charlotte, to Chicago, to Toronto. We've seen bad losses at home. We've seen bad losses on the road to the crappy Washington Wizards. So whenever we have talked about the schedule easing up a little bit, it's not like that the Pacers have always equated to that, right? Actually, they've equated to that in terms of the level in which, hey, Cam, by the way, that battery's running low right there, in the ways in which that they have played. So we'll see if that is a huge factor. But you look at 10-7 in January, and I think, again, considering the circumstances, you probably have to be pretty happy about that, don't you? All in all, the way that you look at it. The Knicks, very tough. The Knicks without Julius Randle later on tonight. The Knicks and the Pacers can be heard, of course, right here. Now, if you're watching back on Bally with Chris and Quinn and Jeremiah Johnson, Eddie Gill coming up later on tonight as well. But you can hear it. Mark Boyle, Eddie Gill, and Pat Boylan coming up later on right here. So tonight, to me, is more of a gauge than it was against Boston the other night. And honestly, even in the loss, I was impressed with that. The way that they hung in, got down early. Boston shot the lights out of the second quarter, being able to hang, being able to show, being able to have that opportunity to win it. I mean, really late. One possession game, took the lead late. Even in a loss, that was certainly impressive. All right, I got time for you. 239-1070. Take some calls. Thoughts on Purdue Northwestern last night. What you heard from Matt Painter, what you thought regarding Matt Painter about last night's game. You know, about the free throws attempted by the Boilers. How about the free throws missed by Purdue as well? We can take your calls at 239-1070 coming up next on that. And talk about a variety of other things, too, including the Pacers and the Knicks later on tonight. But right now, I'd love to see you back 9, Grover Street, near south side of downtown, right next to the White River with Michelob Ultra. NBA Jam is being played. Would love to see you here. The high score goes to the finals, and the high score wins these shoes if you're watching in the AAA Membership Lounge on YouTube Live. So join us again. High score wins, NBA Jam, Michelob Ultra. Our friends, shout out to Danny Hayes, our good friend here at the back 9 always. A great place to go. We'll maybe even hit some golf balls too. It is an incredibly warm day considering what we've been through, and day number 1 of February out here. So being outside and hitting golf balls would be outstanding. Again, back 9, location, Grover, Michelob Ultra, NBA Jam. Our friends are all here. You should be too. Mike Chappell, top of the hour. Josh Schertz, Indiana State, bottom of the 5. Your calls at 239-1070. Coming at you next.
The Ride with JMV.
We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way. We're on a mission from God.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. We're at the back nine. We're playing NBA Jam. We're trying to find a high score here. So the high scorer can win this pair of shoes that I've been wearing. And then ultimately advance to the finals. All right, I got to give a shout out to Jason. Jason's a friend of the show. That's BBOH at Bush_Jason. I think I've retweeted it already. I think Tony Donahue is here. I'm sure he's going to retweet it too. But, I was showing the NBA Jams logo that they have on the T-shirts for winners here and what they're giving away at the back nine. That is, JMV Jam. And it's got me and B Swift from Hot 100.9. He's the afternoon guy there. And it's got us going against one another, kind of like the NBA Jam, the two-person teams in the NBA Jam style that they have. Well, Jason had created this years ago, and I thought that it had gone. Apparently, it is still here. It is the JMV Sucks basketball logo, and it's hilariously brutal. It is me. It's me. Have you seen this? The NBA, no, I should say the JMV Sucks logo. I'll, again, send this back out via X. And this is Jason that created it. I want to make sure he gets all the credit for it. But if you're me, it's an absolute brutality. It is. Thank you very much. It is a brutality. I thought it was gone, and there it is. Getting right back in there, and it is outstanding. Now, especially if you hate my guts, which I'm sure there are a lot of people that do out there. I'm sure this is something that you'll want to go ahead and use. And if you like me, probably as well. And I know this has been mentioned. I don't know about this one for the shop in Broad Ripple and Carmel. I don't know about this for Alex and Brian to put together. The JMV Sucks League. It is brutal. Absolutely brutal. I don't know. I don't know if the shop gets a hold of it. It may end up going someplace right there. Thank you very much, Jason, for that. Thanks to our good friends at Zinc, too, and Michelob Ultra for supplying everything. And we got a lot more for you. Matt Painter, really good. If you missed any of it, podcast 107.5, thefan.com. And as I mentioned, the full interview is found in the podcast because we went about 35 or 36 minutes. And the full interview, there is more that you did not hear. There's some high school stuff in there with Matt and I, and some Wisconsin stuff in there too. The podcast 107.5 thefan.com. If you missed Matt earlier, really good per usual. Ian Eagle of CBS. Ian Eagle is the voice of the Final Four. Ian Eagle and Bill Raftery have Purdue and Wisconsin coming up on Sunday. That's in Madison. And Ian Eagle talked about that matchup with us. Talked a little NBA. Great insight on the Knicks. Pacers-Knicks coming up tonight at Madison Square Garden. As I mentioned earlier, it was solidified today that Julius Randle, who's over 24 points a game, over 9 rebounds a game, will be lost for an extended period of time with a right shoulder dislocation. So definitely out tonight. We'll see if all the Pacers are going. It appears that T.J. McConnell, who was ill in Boston the other night after missing the previous game for personal reasons, it appears that he is in NYC with the Pacers tonight. We'll get a good look, good read on it, I'm sure, with some of these reports that will follow in the 5 o'clock hour. But that's the situation with the Pacers. Pacers-Knicks, now, hanging in with Boston, great. This is the type of game, especially without Julius Randle, even though the Knicks have played very well since that deal with OG Anunoby from Toronto. This is a game that you really want to get. this is a game that you really want to get, considering you get a back half of a double dip tomorrow night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse against Sacramento. You'd really like to get this tonight. The opportunity is going to be there. We'll take a look exactly how much time is expected from Tyrese Halliburton this evening and the availability of others coming up here in the 5 o'clock hour, too. We talked a little bit about that with Ian Eagle again earlier. TNT, NBA, and CBS. Again, Boilers in Wisconsin on Sunday, and Ian Eagle, along with Bill Raftery, will be on the call for that. So, yeah, a lot busy show so far today. And as I mentioned, too, my Sycamores a winner last night. We'll talk to their head coach coming up in the 5 o'clock hour, too. All right. So what do you make of the Colts going into the offseason? We'll get into that with Mike Chappell coming up on the other side. Not deeply rooted into the expectation of the offseason, but exactly the direction he believes they're going to go. Is it the same type of Ballard plan, or is there an adjustment being made? Pro Bowl representation, Senior Bowl, and a lot more coming up. You won't want to miss it. The latest regarding the Colts with Mike Chappell. That's coming up next. Josh Schertz of Indiana State, bottom of the 5 o'clock hour. Again, we're off of Drover, which is off of Morris, South Side. We're at back 9. Michelob Ultra and NBA Jam. You're playing for the shoes and for a spot in the finals while we're here at the back 9. Off of Drover on a Thursday. Quick break. We're back with you on the other side, and Mike Chappell, too. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, the stream, the app, HD Radio, and 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
In order for small businesses to thrive, they need to be smart, efficient, savvy.
If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
He's my best friend. He's my pal. He's my homeboy, my rotten soldier. He's my sweet cheese, my good time boy.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Back 9, everybody. Thank you for joining us. If you're inside the AAA Membership Lounge, YouTube Live, shout out to you guys, too. You can listen, watch, participate there. Matt Painter earlier, Boilermaker head coach, Iron Eagle, TNT, and CBS play-by-play man, the voice of the Final Four. He has Purdue and Wisconsin coming up on Sunday. He was on the show. Josh Schertz, Indiana State head coach, coming up at the bottom of the hour. And back 9, Michelob Ultra NBA Jam getting the high score. This pair of shoes, if you're watching again inside the lounge, and getting the winner on to what is going to be an incredible final where you can win the NBA Jam arcade game and just a variety of tickets, really, to everything around here. This is going to be a great spring, summer, and fall for concerts, and Zinc and Michelob Ultra have you up front and personal with so many of them, your favorites. You win that as well if you win the finals, but first you got to get there, and being the high scorer will do that here. At the back 9 off of Drover, hour number 3 is now upon us. Now, Matthew did ask me this, and I wanted to answer it. He says, do you think, and I get the, he's our boy, do you think our boy Miles has a good chance of being named an all-star reserve with Embiid possibly being out and Randall being out? Now, that's interesting. Normally I would say no, but if there are bodies out in the big category, I don't know how they add. I don't know if, because it's also an Indy, if that would play a role. I guess I would not completely dismiss it. And part of me doesn't want to dismiss it because I know that it will drive some numbnuts out there crazy, and I love that. I love it. There was nothing that would be greater than that, at least in the moment. Yeah, normalcy would prevail, and I'd go no, but just for the sake of the argument and knowing that a lot of you out there are getting all pissy as I speak makes me feel really good. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew, for that. Back to it in a second. Josh Schertz, bottom of the hour. Mike Chappell, CBS 4, Fox 59, covers the Colts. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. There's some moments in your life where you just hope that because you know who you might be dealing with from, I don't know, an X, a tweet, or, something via social media, and you hope that you're able to report something or talk about something that really kind of crams it up their rear end. Do you have those moments still? Because I do.
Not as many as you do, apparently. No,
I get a little bit of satisfaction out of that. I do.
Well, see one thing, and you'll understand this, my son. The older you get, what you want is less stress. You don't want stress. You want easy days, and I know, because stress is a pain in the ass. It really is. So I yearn for quiet days. I really do.
Yeah, but there are some days like tonight will be one of those, and you probably have followed this, right? On nights of Pacer games, and it's really quiet. You can tell if Miles has a good game, then my Twitter or X handle is very quiet. If Miles doesn't, then it's very active. But it's every single night. It's funny. It's like I play, and I don't play. If I did, I'd get worked. But I don't play at all. But it's almost like that I play and I have something to do with it. So there's a little bit of me that has grown attached to it. You know what I mean? And I've grown attached to it, and I don't know what I'd do without it.
I'd like to, the Pacers isn't my lane. The Colts is my lane. But has there been as polarizing a player as Miles Turner? Probably, but so much of, to me, it's attached to the fact that the salary doesn't equate to what you want from the guy, and I understand that. But that's crazy. That's not Miles Turner's problem. You want him to do more, although he's great at what he does. I always equate him to Michael Pittman. I think Pittman's a great player. I want more, so maybe it devalues him in some people's eyes. But I think Miles Turner, again, there's probably another Pacer. I'm not talking like, some guy who was just an idiot. I'm talking about a really good player that is so polarizing that you're either in his camp or you want to drive him to the airport. So,
we talked about hey Mike, we talked about this a little bit last week too. And by the way, Miles' contract for a big doing what he does is good for the Pacers. I mean, they should love it. Honestly, the Pacers signed DeAndre Ayton to an offer sheet, and that would be an absolute stinking mess right now. So They lucked out that Phoenix brought him back. However, I remember mentioning this last week.
I think Miles is a really good player. And then, of course, he generally gets worked over by Embiid, which, I mean, the guy's averaging 30-some points a game, Embiid is. So a lot of guys are getting worked over by him. But it's where we are. And one thing, again, I've learned over the years, and it's even more so with social media, is you got to – I think you do it because you enjoy it. You enjoy the controversy and the strife and all that, but you always have to consider the source. And there's a bunch of complete idiots out there that really have nothing better to do. And again, just remind yourself what it takes to post something on X. It takes Wi-Fi and a laptop and a finger. It doesn't take a brain or common sense. So, I really enjoy X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, I understand that there's too many. And again, the majority of the people are pretty sane. But you get that sliver and that's the loud. Those are the loud people, the loudest people who have very little, fact or common sense behind them. But the louder you speak, sometimes they think it's going to be true when it's not. It's just louder, stupid stuff.
I think I told you this last week. To me, the closest comparison to how Miles is dealt with around here with many is Jim Caldwell, because he never got any of the credit for winning and got every ounce of the blame for losing.
That's true. That's true, and I don't disagree. And we talked about this, and I've always thought he got such a bad reputation here when it really wasn't his doing. And oh, by the way, he was here when Peyton's neck exploded. It's too bad, and he never got his just dues in Detroit when you did a good job there. So that's a good comparison, and it's just, again, there are polarizing people, and a lot of times it's not based on anything valid. It's just that it was on his watch or whatever when things happened, like with Caldwell. Again, can you imagine the narrative on him? Like I said last week, if Hank Baskett recovers that onside kick, all of a sudden Caldwell does this, and Sean Payton looks like a complete moron for doing that at the time. So it's crazy how one or two instances change how people are looked at, because I've always thought Jim Caldwell had a ton to do with Peyton Manning going from really, really, really good to being great by how he harped on Peyton on the details and footwork and fundamentals and all that. It sounds kind of boring. Talk to Peyton sometime about how in November, December, when you get a little bit tired and Caldwell's still on your ass about doing things the right way. And that's how you get to be, in his case, a Hall of Famer in Peyton's place.
So Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. When should we, I guess, obviously after the Super Bowl, and once certainly we get into March, but when is it time to really start to talk a little bit more in depth about how we see this off season coming together on this wish list, or how they're going to put it together on the list of Chris Ballard? When does that officially start? Is it the Monday after the Super Bowl? Is it now? I mean, when do we really start the discussion?
They're laying the groundwork now, and it's all about the dominoes falling, and the first ones to fall will be which of your own guys are you going to make an effort to resign? And probably on the calendar, the first thing that has to happen is Michael Pittman, and do you get a contract done, or do you have to apply the franchise tag? I think I've got the dates in front of me. There's that 2 or 3 week window of applying the franchise tag. which, failing a long-term deal, they will, because you do. But then it's, you want Grover back, you want Kenny Moore back, who do you want back? And then, but again, you've got to do all this stuff at once, and you also got an eye that you got to have an eye on free agency, and again, Michael Pittman sort of dictates what you can do, what you can't do, how much more aggressive you can be with your cash, because if he gets a long-term deal, it's going to involve some pretty good upfront money, because that's the way players are now. Even though that's really not how the Colts have been doing things up until like the last year or two, they prefer to not really front load things in signing bonuses. In signing bonuses. So yeah, it's going on now, but I think maybe Pittman's the first one to go because of that, and then the free agency, and then you get into veteran free agency, and with the combine coming up, that's kind of when things start really kind of percolating, which is what the end of February and the 1st of March, when everybody, when the NFL returns to Indy for like 10 days or whatever, which is always cool. I wish they'd keep this thing here forever, because it works. It just works, and it makes our job easier when you got everybody here, as opposed to maybe having to go to Dallas or Los Angeles or whatever. But yeah, you've got to. One thing Bill Pulley once said, you see a guy, the team, everything is you're like a duck above water. You see the duck above water, and it's just really calm and cool. And you look underneath, and their old feet are just paddling away. So they probably took a little bit of time off to just sort of catch their breath. I think Reggie tweeted or whatever that he was back in Miami when it was like 10 below here. So good for Reggie. But then you get back at it, and you've got to evaluate and who's worth bringing back, who's not worth bringing back, who after last season, like with Shane Steichen, who really fits with what he does, who really doesn't, but you weren't prepared to really cut that guy last year, and maybe you're more apt to release him this year. So there's always stuff going on, and the further we go in the next couple of weeks, it'll just start percolating even more.
So Mike Chappell of CBS 4 and Fox 59, what's the percentage of folks with the Senior Bowl going on that Chris Ballard gets back with his intel and ends up drafting in April?
I bet it's, 60%. I mean, in essence, it just can't be a coincidence that every year that a lot of the guys they draft are at the Senior Bowl, and at the Combine, that they, knock the athletic part out of the park, and these guys are, they chart really high on everyone's list at the position. So again, it's all intertwined. It is. And, do they, what are they at 15th in the draft? Do they have a guy that they really like there, or like with Chris does a lot of times, do you trade back and get more picks, which is fine, but I always hate to pass on a really, really good player to get two good players. But no, that's what's really funny that I always get a chuckle out of is you'll see when all these pro days, later on when stuff's going on, and they'll say, hey, the Colts had a guy at, Georgia's pro day or South Carolina's pro day. Well, yeah, that's what they do. They've got area scouts, and that's what these guys do. Now, when the head coach or the GM is there, when Ballard went to see Quentin Nelson or whatever, or when they're looking over Anthony Richardson last year, then you take extra note. But when I see that a scout of the Colts is at some campus, something, so he got out of bed and did his job that day, which is what these guys do. These guys, they've got such a great personnel staff. And whenever we talk to Chris after the draft or whatever, then we get the assistant or the personnel guys, and they really, really allow us to talk to these scouts who have spent time with these players. And in some cases, they found this guy who fits here. Maybe he doesn't fit somewhere else or whatever. So I really enjoy when we get a chance to talk to Chris Ballard, personnel guys, because you really get some good info on the players they drafted.
Hey, in closing here, Mike, what'd you think about Chris Collins and his exit from the floor last night at Mackey?
That's what someone used to tell me. It's called loading the shotgun. And little things here, there at the 10-minute mark, the 5-minute mark, and then you keep building stuff up, and then finally you think, okay, we're going off. And I thought what was cool is he wanted a piece of that ref. What was it? The fouls? 46-8.
Yes. Foul shots, 46-8.
I understand the style of play, and Zach Edey's impossible to defend, so you foul him. I understand that, but that's pretty disparate. But I thought what was cool is while he wanted to go into Thunderdome with that official, he still took 5 seconds to veer over and congratulate Painter, and I think he went over and gave some comments to Zach Edey. But I kind of like that. What the hell 4 points mean at the end unless there were bets out there? Probably there were, so it probably did mean something.
Yeah.
But that one of my favorite things to watch is Scott Van Pelt with – is it Sunday or Monday when they got bad beats? And you think nothing matters when it's a breakaway or a guy rims one or whatever, and there's always somebody that's PO'd because he had the other way. But I kind of like it. I thought he had enough. I thought Purdue got away with that one on the baseline where the guy hooked him when he got trapped in the corner, but I don't know. But it wasn't necessarily that call, whatever that call was. It was 10 calls leading up to it where he had just had enough. And he knew they were beaten. He was going to make his point, and he didn't care who knew about it. He didn't care what it looked like. But I thought he went off about as nice as you could go off. I bet he was steaming on that ride home, though.
So Mike Chappell of CBS 4, Fox 59 on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, Mike, have a great weekend. Watch my X account tonight during the Pacers-Knicks game, and we'll catch back up with you next Thursday, buddy. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Be well. Have a good weekend.
So Mike Chappell with us. Back 9 on location. I'll tell you why on the other side, Josh Schertz, head coach of Indiana State. A big win against Drake on Saturday. A big win last night on the road. The Sycamore head coach joins us coming up next.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along.
With JMV.
We have the holy hand grenade. Yes, of course. The holy hand grenade of Antioch. Right. 1, 2, 5. Lisa, 3.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Dan Quinn, the new head coach of the Washington Commanders. Former Falcons head coach, I think 15-20. One Super Bowl appearance. I think we remembered how all that went down at the end. Last 3 years in Dallas as the defensive coordinator. Dan Quinn is now with the Washington Commanders. Back nine location, NBA Jam, Michelob Ultra. High score gets the shoes. We'll talk more about that in a second. Matt Painter, Iron Eagle, Mike Chappell on the show today. 1075thefan.com. And Matt Painter, even more than what you heard right here, we have the interview in its entirety online, 1075thefan.com. But on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, big win on the road last night at Belmont for Indiana State. The Sycamores get Drake. A revenge game coming up on Saturday at 6 at the Holman Center in Terre Haute. And the head coach of the Sycamores, Josh Schertz, again with us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, Josh, thank you for the time. How are you?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I'm headed back. I was in Nashville. My brother, nephew, and some family live down there, so I spent dinner with them last night after the game and hang out, and then drove back up today to get back for film and practice. So on the road, but looking forward to getting back to Terre Haute.
Well, that was a hell of a game last night. You get down by 19 in the first half. What was the message to the guys when you guys got down by that amount on the road? Obviously, tough place to play. What was the message? Because they apparently took it to heart because they got up off the mat.
Yeah, I think, I messaged it before the game in terms of, look, this was, two things get in the way of, or there's a lot more than two, but two invisible things that get in the way of consistent high-level performance, which is, to me, the ultimate in life. And those two things are entitlement, thinking that you deserve something, you're owed something, that, you're destined for something. And the other one is excuses, right? And it's our fourth game in 10 days, 3 of them on the road. Our 2 longest bus trips, Belmont and Murray State, in that window. Huge game. And that's what I told him. We had, on the break is, everything I saw in that first half, I thought we played like an entitled, tired team. We weren't urgent on either end of the floor. Energy level was poor. Our desperation level, you could tell. Belmont, they're at home. We had beat them by 30 at our place 2.5 weeks before. We weren't ready, and we got punched in the mouth. But it was a good thing for us. I think nights like last night, help to build the physical and mental endurance you need to win at the highest level when it matters most. And so the poise and maturity we showed, the fight we showed to come back, I thought, is something we can benefit from moving forward. But certainly was about as displeased as I've been with the team at halftime when we went back to that locker room.
You gave up 45 in the first half defensively. Did you start there, or was it just the overall, the all-around level of play that you didn't like what you were getting from?
Yeah, I thought, our defense was poor. We just had, first pass of game, we're trapped in the post, supposed to rotate. We don't rotate, give up a wide open 3 to Walker, have a kind of a half-hearted contest by Robbie. Next one, DM makes it. We turned the ball over. Our offense was sloppy. They're not pressuring us. We're playing in crowds. We weren't getting up the ball at the appropriate time. Everybody talks about energy defensively, but you got to play with energy offensively, right? And we didn't have energy on either end of the floor, just being honest. I thought we looked tired. I thought we looked physically tired, mentally tired and physically tired. I thought we played slow. I thought we got beat to every 50-50 ball. It was just, everything, you don't want to see from your team. But these kids are humans, and they're not always going to be at their best. You're not always going to have, that's why we tried to win the bench, and thought Aaron Gray gave us great minutes. But you're trying to search and figure out what you can do, what you can change to try to get some energy, get a jolt in there. And we started stabilizing a little bit. And by halftime, I told him, I said, that was a pretty pathetic first half in terms of both ends of the floor. And you know what? We're only 8 points down, which in basketball is nothing. You know, that is nothing. We were 19 down. We're down 8, and we got to come out in the second half. If we lose, okay, let's not lose because we didn't compete. Let's not lose because we didn't have energy. Let's not live in the excuses of, man, we're tired. It's, as you know, JMV, the dog days of college basketball kind of start around January 20th, and they go through about February 20th. There's about a month in there, and it just feels like it's been forever, and it's forever till the end, right? And so these dog days, you can get all these different things. At the end of the day, that's why you got to play to a standard. You got to fight for your standards. And I thought, that's what I told him at halftime. You know, are we gonna lay down? Are we gonna fight for our standards? Or how we play? Are we gonna play with great effort and toughness and physicality? Are we going to play with the detail necessary on both ends? Are we going to play with connectivity on both ends of the floor and on the bench? And that we didn't have that in the first half. But second half, much better on both ends. Wasn't perfect. We got a little bit lucky. But we made all the hustle, toughness plays down the stretch to win the game.
Josh Schertz, the head coach of Indiana State, they get Drake coming up on Saturday evening. We'll get to that in a second. Was that the first time that this season you've really had to light into your team a little bit because of that first half performance? And you mentioned, a teachable moment. How teachable was that moment, especially with the type of game that you saw from them in the second half?
Yeah, I think, I've had to light into them a few times. I think there's always a balance of trying to figure out, what a team needs, and are you trying to infuse them with confidence? Are you trying to, sometimes you got to put your arm around, sometimes you got to kick them in the butt like your own kids, and trying to figure out, what they need in that moment to find it inside themselves. I've had it a few times, but that was the worst half, we've played all year. And Belmont, to their credit, it's two-edged sword. I thought Belmont was really good. Sometimes people forget that in there. They just focus on you, and they forget that, you're competing against another team that has, 13 scholarship players and coaches paid a lot of money to win games too. There's not just you out there playing. But that aspect. And then I think the teachable moment was how long a game it is, and that there's nothing more – I always talk about there's nothing more overrated than a first-half lead or a halftime lead. And those things dissipate, and can go like that. And you just got to keep playing. And I thought the resilience we showed, the collective grit we showed, the poise and maturity we showed. Like, we didn't panic even down 31-12. We weren't happy. We weren't happy at halftime. But I never felt like, we let go of the rope. And those are things that when you get into trying to build, we talk a lot about championship DNA. And we think that can be built. And nights like last night, you're able to recall and call back on those because you're likely to find yourself in similar situations, whether it's up 23 against Ball State and losing a lead and getting it cut to 4 and having to make plays down the stretch to win, or being down 19 and rallying back, or scoring, winning a game like Murray State tonight where we can't score, it's 28-25 at half, we're down. Like, those things build competitive character. They build that championship DNA of understanding, okay, we've been in this, we have these experiences, what happened, what drove it. So we'll look at film today. How did we get down 31-12? What did we do that was so poor in that stretch? Why did we have no energy? Why were we not ready to answer the bell? And then we got to look at the things we did to correct and understand that, hey, if we find ourselves up 19 in the first half, it's a long game. We're down 19 in the first. Whatever the situation is, you got to stay poised. You got to play the next possession the right way, and you got to hang in there, show that resilience, fortitude, and those are things we can build on moving forward.
He's Josh Schertz with us. I mentioned Drake's coming up at the Holman Center. That's on Saturday at 6 o'clock. Back about a month ago, a loss at Drake. We know how good they are. We know how meaningful this game is. Where do we begin with round 2 of this matchup on Saturday, Coach?
Well, I think trying to make sure that we get to that game with fresh legs and a clear mind, and that's on me, right? I got to make sure that physically we're ready to go. I thought we were a tired team yesterday, and I've got to make sure that we're physically good to go on Saturday. And then clear mind to me is understanding what we got to do. We had in the Drake game the first time. With them, there's not a whole lot of secrets. You know, you got to be great in transition D. You got to do a great job on DeVries. You know, our post D, like they hurt us in every which way that they could play well. They hurt us. We got up 7 in the second half. A number of breakdowns, and the better team you play, the less glitches you can have. You know, you can't glitch out and give them what I call relief points. You know, they're going to be good teams are good enough. You do everything right, they're going to score enough points to be in the game regardless. When you start breaking down and giving guys wide open shots or transition baskets or offensive rebounds or, you know, bad fouls, it just compounds to a point where you can't score enough to keep up. And in that game, we went from up 7 with 15 to play to down 15. We got outscored 36-14 in the 10-minute window, which until last night I thought was the worst 10-minute window we played all year. And so we've got to be better. You know, in these games, there's really no magic. There's no magic scheme. You know, we've got to go out and play much sharper on both ends than we did in Des Moines, and we got to be much sharper on both ends than we were last night. And, you know, that's the challenge. This will be a high line for us to get. But this is, you know, it doesn't get any better than this. I mean, you never, as a coach, player, and hopefully as a fan, you know, you never feel more alive than you do on, you know, nights like Saturday night when you're at the highest level competition and you're competing against the best. You want to challenge yourself and see if you can, you know, stack up and get through competition at the highest level. It doesn't get any better than it does Saturday night for us against Drake.
And you're right, too. Tucker DeVries was so good in that first meeting, too. I mean, just normally things he does well, he did it at, again, a high level against you guys in that first meeting.
Yeah, he did, and you know, and you got to credit him. And then there was enough plays. You know, we screwed up 2 switches on out of bounds under where we should have switched and we didn't. He came off open both times, and you know, it's what great players do. He came off open. He missed the post rotation. I didn't know we were blitzing. Ball gets kicked out. You know, guy scrambles. The guy who gets the one more, he's wide open. He bangs that. So, you know, you have enough plays in that game where, you know, we broke down. We had a switch we missed on a ball screen, and DeVries makes a 3 there. So, you know, off the top of my head, 4 of his 6 threes were, you know, we left him open.
Yeah.
And then great players make you pay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what great players do, and that's what I'm talking about. You know, you can't give him any open shots. You got to make him earn everything. He's as good a player as there is in the league. He's the defending, you know, player of the year in the league. You know, he's the reigning player of the year in the league, whatever it is. And you know, when you break down against him, you can pretty much count it. And just like all great players, you know, competitive greatness is always being at your best when it matters most, right? When it's needed. And he'll be at his best on Saturday. So we have to make sure that we're at our best and that we make him earn everything. He's still going to score. He's a great player. You're not going to keep him from getting baskets. But are we making him earn it? Are we having those same mistakes we had in Des Moines? If we do, we're going to be in for a long night. This is a game where, you know, you're going to, you know, basketball's an imperfect game. You're going to make mistakes. So we got to have perfect intentions, and we got to really limit our mistakes because it's going to be a high line that we got to hit to get the win on Saturday night. But I think, like I said, our team is capable of doing it. I mean, we've shown, and we got to get to it more consistently, that you know, we're good enough. Even in Des Moines, we're up 7 in that second half. I didn't think we were great. And then that stretch, you know, they just absolutely, you know, flipped it on us and punched us in the mouth. And, you know, we were never able to recover that 36-14 run in the second half. That's a whole lot different than the 36-14 run in the first half.
We saw what the Holman Center was like last Saturday against Bradley, and it's going to be even more magnified coming up on Saturday evening there, too. I absolutely love what you guys have done with the university and Terre Haute, bringing everybody together, having that collective juice that we haven't seen for a while. It truly is special around there right now.
It is. You know, the community has wrapped their arms around this team. You know, you could feel it last year a little bit. You know, we started getting crowds in that 6,000 range, you know, as we had some big home games, Southern Illinois and Bradley, and I thought the crowd started to really kind of come together. But this year it's galvanized, and you got to credit you know, our people, more people in Indiana State that are working, Corey and his crew, our mayor, you know, Brandon Sackman, Mark Klinkenbeer, county commissioner, everybody working together, you know, in the community, Danny Placencia. I mean, you have all these people working together institutionally and from a leadership standpoint with the community, but really it's the Sycamore faithful. And people here love, I mean, you know, you've experienced it. I mean, they love basketball. They really do. And they love Indiana State. And, you know, Terre Haute's a small town. It's a college town. And Indiana State, you know, and Terre Haute, when it's connected like this, it's beautiful. That synergy, that symmetry, that's how it should be. Because ultimately, in Terre Haute, Indiana State needs Terre Haute, and Terre Haute needs Indiana State. And the what's happening from the basketball standpoint has been exactly what you would hope would happen. Like, we went and played, you know, in Nashville last night. It was a, you know, really good game. There was maybe 2,000 people there.
Yeah.
You know, but that's Nashville. That's a big city. You're not going to have that. You know, Terre Haute, that's the joy of being in a place like Terre Haute, is that people really invest and care. This is that relationship, that symbiotic relationship between Indiana State basketball, and the Terre Haute community. We're starting to see it come together, and I hope it's the beginning of something, you know, where it's not just, these two games. This is really the beginning of Indiana State-Terre Haute partnership with the basketball program being a huge part of that, to bring those entities together, and this becomes the norm as opposed to, oh, man, you know, it's a sell, and it's like, oh, yeah. You know, Indiana State has great crowds every single night, because ultimately what creates a home court environment are two things. You got to have great players, because without that, nothing works. And then you got to have a great environment and great energy in the building. And Saturday against Bradley was as good as I've ever been a part of, and I expect this Saturday, amazingly, to be even at a higher level than it was just a week ago.
Incredibly special, too. Hey, one final thing. Thank Matt Graves and Robbie for the picture at 8th and Crawford, where I once lived as a student at Indiana State University. A lot of great memories in that place.
Yes, no, man, I'm sure. You want to share a few, or no?
Well, I could. I think I told Robbie last week, I think a lot of my crap is still in that attic. So,
it probably is. I don't think anybody's cleaned that place in a while. It was. We said, you know, if we won on Saturday, they were going to go get the pick, and I knew right around lunchtime they took off, and wanted to make sure. You've done such an amazing job of giving us a platform and supporting us, and you know, we talk about Sycamore faithful.
Yep.
They don't get any more faithful than you, and your support of our program, and we really appreciate it. We love you, and you know, grateful for all that you do for not just, you know, our basketball program, our university, and such a great representative of, you know, diversity, and shows kind of your affinity and affection for it is how it should be. It was great for you, but you've also been great for the university.
I love it. I love you guys, too. I appreciate that. Tell Robbie and Matt, thank you very much. And, by the way, this is the anniversary of the Bobby Heaton half-court shot against New Mexico State that kept, if you remember, Larry Bird's team in 79 unbeaten during that regular season. I was in third grade in front of the TV, and Bob Forbes had the call back in the day. I remember it like it was yesterday. Incredible day.
Oh, man.
Yes.
Incredible day. I know that's one of those seminal moments, the Miracle Man from half court. And, you know, it's those guys, you know, amazingly are still around. It's great to get to, you know, I get to see Coach Klee, Bob Heaton, Brad Miley, Carl Nicks. I mean, there's so many people connected with that place. And, you know, one of the things you really feel at Indiana State is, you know, an incredible responsibility to, you know, that the privilege it is to be a part of that program and uphold the tradition that those guys laid down. Not just those guys, but, you know, the Ren Menser era, the Odom era. I mean, there's been so many great players and teams to come through. You really do wake up in the morning and feel that sense of responsibility. And having those guys around, like Bob Eaton, like Brad Miley, like Knicks, that were part of that team, it's just great for our guys because they feel that every single game.
No doubt about that. Well, Coach, safe travels back. And by the way, when you see Robbie, I did send out a picture of me shooting a 27-foot jump shot and making it at Center Grove High School. He questioned some of my mechanics.
Well, listen, if it went in, which I think it went in,
it did.
Listen, you just aesthetics be dang. It's a bottom line business, much coaching. Shot goes in or it doesn't. You can worry about your mechanics. At the end of the day, if that ball's going in, we're going to live with it.
You got it. Hey, thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. Safe travels getting back here. Best of luck coming up on Saturday. And Greg Rakestraw and I will be over there, I believe, for the Murray State game. We're coming over there and hanging out with you guys for the day. So,
well, we cannot wait. March 3rd. It'll be senior night. That'll be a blast. And we'll have a great one. It'll be a great college basketball game, an amazing environment Saturday. And hope you get to tune in, see a little bit. And we look forward to seeing you here in March. And thanks again for everything you're doing.
Hey, always. Much love for you guys over there at Terre Haute. Safe travels, and we'll catch you again soon, Coach. Thank you.
Appreciate it, JMV. Very much reciprocal. Take care.
Josh Schertz, the head coach of Indiana State. I could not love a program, a school, and a town like Terre Haute more than I do them right now. It is so enjoyable, so fun. It is, and he's right. I hope that this becomes a feeling that is a consistent, but it is so enjoyable for all of us Indiana State folks out there, and hopefully you as well. A quick break, we'll come back. Back Nine's our location. We're doing this with our friends from Michelob Ultra, of course, and NBA Jam being played here at the Back Nine. Quick break, we'll come back. Don't go anywhere. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
In order for small businesses to thrive,
The Ride with JMV.
Son, you got a panty on your head. You drive fast, eh?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, Third Eye Blind tickets. Third Eye Blind coming to Indy this summer. Stephen Jenkins and Third Eye Blind. That's at Ruoff Music Center. Third Eye Blind and Yellow Card. Number 9 at 239-1070 will win tickets to Third Eye Blind and Yellow Card. Again, it's July the 6th at Ruoff Music Center. Number 9, 239-1070. Can win tickets to see Third Eye Blind. Tony Donahue was here with Fans Place. You ever seen Third Eye Blind?
Oh, of course, yeah, multiple times. Once at the old Rib Fest.
Yeah.
Once at the Vogue, and then I think down here on the lawn as well.
You ever seen Yellow Card?
I have, yeah. Ocean Avenue, great song.
Third Eye Blind. Now,
it'll be a great show. There'll be tons of chicks my age. It'll be great.
Thank you, Live Nation, as always, for setting us up with the tickets. Again, Third Eye Blind at number 9 at 239-1070 is going to go on us. So I actually sent out a text to Doug Bowles a little bit earlier because they announced the EDM Snake Pit show earlier in the week. And it doesn't sound like that they're quite ready to announce Carb Day.
Saw him at breakfast yesterday. He told me that they are close. He goes to Vegas this weekend, and then I believe Denver the following weekend. So I think we'll see an announcement on Carb Day over the next week or so. Again, it's, 160-mile radius within a 4-month span?
Yeah.
What it has to be. So do you have any guesses?
I don't. I have none.
I think Weezer would be good. Weezer's not playing here. They're on tour later on in the summer. They're off in May. I think Weezer would be awesome.
Weezer is, I think, outstanding.
That'd be incredible.
I've seen them like 3 times. I think they've been great. I would agree with you. I think Weezer would probably. But Weezer played here last, Garfield Park, back in the summer.
Back in September.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
September is when it was.
That's past the distance.
Yeah.
They haven't announced their tour, but I did check their site the other day, and they are off most of the month of May, so that would make a lot of sense. But that's just my guess.
Huh. Anybody else?
My guess.
You think of that?
Man, I mean, wouldn't Bush be awesome out there? I know that they're coming elsewhere, and it's not going to happen. But Bush, I think a Jimmy Eat World Weezer would be great.
Jimmy Eat World and Weezer.
That'd be great.
Didn't Doug say a year ago that they were going to start getting into like more of a 90s kind of thing, right?
What did I just say?
Right
so,
there. More of a 90s?
Yeah, I mean, and you talked about this for years. The biggest thing is it doesn't really matter. We're all going to be tapping our toes,
it doesn't.
singing
It
along,
does not matter.
Drinking beer. It's going to be great. So,
but I think it is Danny
wait.
Hayes right
hey,
there.
Danny Hayes.
The ownership of the place.
Hey, Danny.
That's Ron Colley's finest right there.
Man.
Good to see you, buddy.
How you
Love
doing?
being out
Tony,
here as
good to see you,
always.
man. How are you?
Hey, Fans Place. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, so we're doing sports prediction apps. You come to a great place like the Back Nine, have yourself a Michelob Ultra, turn in your points. If you pay for a bay, turn that receipt into our app. We'll pay you back your cash back points on that. We're growing. We're going to have some great stuff. Might be talking to Mr. Halverson and Evan Williams here over the next couple of weeks. So it's going to be great. Can't wait. It's crazy. Super Bowl next week, then NBA All-Star game here, followed by the NCAA tournament, followed by the Masters, and followed by the Indy 500. It's going to be June before we know it.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, hey, Danny, there's a certain athletic director, I think, that just had some bad intentions in sending me a text a little bit earlier.
Uh-oh.
A certain AD at Ron Colley High School Athletic. I think we may have had some things said about you. Not sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. I got that at Ron Colley, too. Yeah, the day of giving at Ron Colley.
Where's Blake going to go to school at?
I have no idea.
That decision's coming,
Speaking
right?
of the day of giving, there's going to be my day of giving right there.
He's going to go to
Here's
Indiana
Blake.
State?
By the way, shout out to Blake. Blank you guys not. He has an interview at Hollister in the Greenwood Park Mall on Saturday.
Whoa. Does he have to wear the puka shell necklace and all the cologne?
No.
Will they make him take his shirt off and stand outside to get people to come in?
Now,
there's still a Hollister around here?
There's a Hollister in the Greenwood Park Mall, and he has an interview on Saturday at Hollister.
What's he going to talk to the customers about? The upcoming Indy 500?
Yep, livery.
Do you own anything Hollister? Have you ever owned anything Hollister?
No.
So this is crazy. Random story back in the day. my sister's boyfriend at the time would go into Hollister and would like rip out the security thing and just walk out with the shirts on.
Great. That's good. I'm sure Blake would be all about that.
So the first Hollister shirt I ever had like holes in the seam right here. And it was, sorry, Michigan City Mall there.
I just thought, man, what it is. See, Danny looks like he's been to Hollister like today.
No, he doesn't. You don't. No, he's been to Boot City and Terre Haute before, though. I guarantee you that.
So, yeah,
There's definitely that.
Blake, would you buy something at Hollister off of Blake?
If I didn't know Blake, absolutely not. If I knew who he was like I do, absolutely. All he's gonna do is ring some people up. He's gonna meet some good-looking ladies. He's gonna be smelling good around the house.
Oh, you know he's gonna be smelling good.
Everything's gonna be good.
You can't go in there without smelling good.
You can't walk past it from the food court 300 yards away without smelling it.
Yeah, so he's got an interview there on Saturday. Hey, how can people get with Fans Place, by the way?
Yeah, check out the Fans Place app. Download it. Free sports prediction app here in Indianapolis. We partner with local bars and restaurants. We've had great support from Michelob Ultra, Bud Light as well. I got some big things coming up in the month of May, March Madness as well. And you're going to answer questions on the Pacer games. You're going to answer questions on different contests. You turn those back into our app. Say, hey, with the back nine, we checked in. We got a 2-hour bay rental. We had a lot of fun, and we'll reimburse you when you turn in those tokens on it.
All right, Fans Place with Tony Donahue. Danny, stay right here. You can stay. Danny Hayes is here. He's a part of the ownership at the back nine. Another great place, man. How are you guys doing?
It is really, really wonderful. Appreciate you guys being here.
Oh, yeah. A little Michelob Ultra and Zinc, as always, man.
The Zinc boys,
they're great.
You know, they never under-deliver.
No,
right?
Never.
They always over-deliver. They're a terrific partner of ours, which I want to give you. I want to give a quick plug, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So we have some great partnership opportunities here at Back Nine. If anyone wants a confirmation of that, our wonderful friends at Reese Restoration, who have one of our suites, they can attest to everything that is brought to them. We do have a suite available.
I know Reese. I know Johnny and the gang.
You know Johnny and the boys, right? Great guys.
Yeah.
They are here all the time. They have a wonderful suite on the second floor. Come by and look at it.
I think Zinc's on there too, right?
Zinc has one as well, and we have one available.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Danny. Danny's a Roncalli guy as well right there.
Absolutely. Hey, all you Rebels, Royals out there, don't forget your day of giving today. That was for my wife. I had to plug that. Sorry.
No. Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it. Tony, great seeing you, too.
Plugs.
Cam, great seeing you. Thank you, NBA Jam. And thank you, Michelob Ultra and the Back Nine. Matt Painter, Josh Schertz, Mike Chappell, Iron Eagle podcast. 1075thefan.com. A big Friday coming at you. Pacers tip tonight at 7:30 right here. Don't miss it.
Hi, this is ESPN's Mike Greenberg and ESPN Bet.